Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the February 21st regular meeting of the Howell Township governing body. I'm going to ask that Mr. Davis kindly read the opening statement and call the roll.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of holding this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of copies of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on December 21st, 2005, and by the faxing of copies of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Newark Star Ledger for publication on December 21st, 2005, and by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's Office on December 21st, 2005. The public will be allowed to attend this meeting and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of the public laws of 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows. Upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, they are to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room to left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mullivan?
Here.
Mrs. Showmaker?
She'll be here late.
Mr. Tabasco?
Present.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mayor DeBella?
Here. All right, we would normally immediately go into executive session. We're going to deviate tonight for just a few minutes, and we're probably going to wind up embarrassing someone that I have a suspicion now knows that he's in to be embarrassed a little. Howell Township has really been blessed for near quarter century of having had a gentleman named Bruce Davis be involved in a variety of capacities. And while this is not Mr. Davis's retirement event, because we're going to work him for everything we can get him for, and I think he knows that. He's not out of this easy. But he has been perhaps the longest-serving township manager, at least under the newer form of government. And he has done so, at least in my judgment, very admirably. He's done so with integrity. He's represented this community and helped us navigate through just a whole number of different issues over the time in which he's been the township's manager. And I think the township has and continues to be a better place because of Mr. Davis's many, many contributions. He started out running for clerk, and when the law changed, he assimilated into the position and has been a constant in Howell Township ever since. He's raised his family here, still lives here. He remains our clerk, and we're truly indebted for having his service. And this is actually his last meeting as manager. Although he will continue to have the good fortune of coming to these meetings, he actually pleaded that no matter what we did, that he wanted to be at all the meetings, and he would go to any extra meetings that were necessary that would be held in the evening.
Especially if they went past 1 in the morning.
Especially the ones that go real long. But Mr. Davis, on behalf of the Township Council and myself, and on behalf of your staff, who I should point out is in the front of the room, the department heads and your managers, people that have had the pleasure of working with you, we'd like to officially thank you for your tremendous service as Township Manager. We have a cake and coffee, and we're just going to deviate for a few minutes and have cake and coffee with you just as a sign of our affection and appreciation for everything you've done for Howell Township. You're a real tribute to the town.
Into the mic, please.
Are we running?
Yeah.
I would just like to say that for all the successes I've had, it's been because of these people that are sitting here and those that may not have been able to attend this tonight. Couldn't have done it without them by any stretch of the imagination. It's truly a team effort. It's not about one person, it's about the team and what we could accomplish together. And we've had some trying times. We've had some very successful times. You know, I accept responsibilities for those issues that maybe weren't as successful as we would have hoped. But as far as accomplishing what we did, and I think we did a hell of a good job, that it's because of these folks and the rest of them. So I just want to thank you all for everything that you've done. You made my job a lot easier and enjoyable. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
And
Why don't you go cut the
thanks to
cake,
the
please?
Can't believe you got a haircut for this occasion.
You know, Bruce, before you do that, we'll put you to work. Would you read the executive statement so that we can have cake and then we can just go right back into closed?
Making the guy work like a dog.
That's it. I believe we have reason to go into executive, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, would you kindly read the appropriate statement?
More in the fury.
Good evening.
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meetings of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting, and whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statute 10:4-12, namely attorney-client privilege, personnel, contract negotiations, litigation, and acquisition of property. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and that the Township Council will reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time, the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session cannot be disclosed to the public at this time.
Okay, we need a motion and a second, please.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second. Any remarks? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, let the record reflect, we're going to go into executive session. We expect to be between an hour to an hour and 30 minutes. Before we do that, we'll have cake on Mr. Davis's behalf, and we shall reconvene as quickly as possible. All right, we're going to reconvene the meeting to order. Thanks, everyone, for their patience. I'm going to ask everyone, please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask that everyone please remain standing for a moment of silent observation in thought and memory of the troops defending this country all across the globe. Thank you. Okay. Can I ask the folks in the back, just for purposes of keeping the hallway noise to a minimum, if they would just close the doors, everyone could just please come in? Okay, next on the agenda, acceptance of minutes of previous meetings. We have January 12, 24, and 26 executive session. Entertain a motion.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks with respect to the minutes? Any remarks? Okay, hearing none, I'll roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, reports of officials. I'll start with you, Mr. Walsh. Do you have anything to report?
I would just briefly like to say, I went to the senior center the other day. I was speaking with Carl Zorn, a lot of the seniors, and they were very concerned about comments that have been made during the budget hearings. Tried to tell them that there was nothing that was decided, there was something that had to be discussed over time, but a lot of seniors were very, I had some of them crying to me that the senior center was going to be shut down. It's the only place that they have, and
I'll let you
it
comment.
was a little disturbing. Did the best I could to reassure them that that wasn't the case, but wasn't too good. I also stopped down at DPW, spoke with them some, went over some things, stopped down during the snowstorm. I thought they did an excellent job. I was down there the night of the snowstorm. Seemed like our DPW had done a good job of being prepared. I thought they did an excellent job on the roads. I drove around the next day, spoke to some of them. They worked around the clock. I think that they answered the call. It was a pretty tough storm. Within a day and a half to 2 days, all our roads seemed pretty drivable. And I just think they did a good job, and they should be commended for it.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
that's all.
Okay, Mrs. Showmaker?
Well, Bob addressed the senior citizens, because we all got that letter. I reviewed the letter that we got on the school bus driving down the wrong street, a one-way street. Bruce, that's not the first time that this is an issue that's been here and there sporadically, where they take advantage of going up in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I
And I
think
see
it's-
that you did speak to the Howell Board of Education on that.
Right.
Also, I wanted to make sure that all the signage, all the appropriate signage was put up down in Winston Park. That was all completed? No? I mean,
Well, it's
not Winston Park.
slated to be.
Slated to, yeah, Winston
It's
Park.
Winston Park.
Yeah.
Has the signage been put up
Yeah.
yet? Not to my knowledge,
No.
no. I don't believe it has. I think we're waiting for everything to, the stanchions have been ordered. I don't believe they're in yet. When all of that is ready to go, then everything will be done at the same time.
But was there signs put up? I thought they were going to put up signage that said what was to come to get to forewarn people.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I'll check tomorrow. to see
Okay,
if
because
that's
we don't
been
want it to just go up. I think it's going to be hard. You don't want, it's going to be an enforcement issue, and you don't want to make it an enforcement issue if it's up, if it's there one day, not the next. Right. Also, I spoke to Mr. Gannon in regards to, Mrs. Crummins isn't here, is she? In regards to the Lackey property, and that's been addressed and issued. One thing, Mr. Gannon, I did forget to ask you, did we see any receipts on dumping fees?
Not at this point. That's part of our motion to go back into court.
Wonderful, okay. One of the things that I thought was a little interesting, and I'm going to bring it to the attention of the council, was the letter in the Howell Historical Society, which only reason I bring it up to you, because it says that we're being blackmailed. Howell Township Council was being blackmailed, so in case any of you didn't know, it says in here that we've all been being blackmailed into destroying an artifact. So you may make note and read the article that was in our envelope from the Howell Historical Society February meeting. It's from the
What does it
editor.
say?
It says that rumor has it that several variations, but the bottom line of it is that the Howell Township Council is being blackmailed into destroying an artifact of its earlier history by someone who hasn't even gotten here yet. The substance of the rumor is this: someone wants to build or buy a house in a growing development on Havensbridge Road and has told the powers to be in our governing body that they will not buy or build unless the old Huff house is torn down. The rumored threat claims that the house is an eyesore or of some similar description. As a point of reference, this is the very same development that a couple of years ago threatened the life of a huge old tree close to Farmingdale-Delphia Road and of Havensbridge Road. Eventually, the tree was spared. As a matter of fact, the Huff House has been attractively shingled and is a nice example of an earlier agrarian period in the life of Howell Township. Going back to rumors again, there's another concerning that house, and it says that a local organization would like to turn the house into a kind of living educational setup to demonstrate and exhibit farm life and activity as it was in the development of this area. That would certainly be a worthy use of many a home that provided shelter and comfort for many generations of our founding families. The Huff House should not be held hostage to the mean-spirited and money-driven whims of someone who wishes to prove a high level of power and influence, if the rumor is true. If the rumor is true, the Howell Township Council should take this opportunity to prove that it is beyond the reach of influence, peddling, and political maneuvering once and for all. Deny the rumor and prove it false by supporting the efforts to create the educational initiative. This is the time to show integrity and appreciation for the heritage of Howell Township. And it doesn't say who the editor is of this article.
You're
So I
talking
think
about the barns on Havensbridge?
The
Yes.
same spot.
It sounds exactly like the same location, yes.
It is.
As the Grange.
It's the one that the construction official's been out on and has already issued his report to the council.
Well, that needs to be responded to.
yes, it does.
So
I think that it needs to be responded
what's your
to.
recommendation?
My recommendation is that we have the inspections that were done on the building, and we follow up with a letter, Mr. Davis, I guess you have to do it to a general mailbox of the Howell Historical Society, and I would forward the inspection that took place on that building, that it wasn't, no one was being blackmailed or held hostage into doing this. Any comments from?
That's terrible. I mean, the fact is that the construction office told us the building was unsafe, it couldn't be repaired, buildings were unsafe, they couldn't be repaired. The development that you're talking about has already been built, so there isn't anything else that could be built in its place.
No.
Is that right?
Correct.
Plus, there's the ongoing police investigation, and we all, as a council, as a body, have said we will, of course, encourage the development of an educational center for, the Grange, et cetera. So a lot of that is all false. So it's been talked about. This is probably the 5th or 6th meeting now already, so I just wish we'd stop talking about it. If they want to print stuff and say stuff, just let them and ignore it at this point.
All right.
What else? Yes, Cynthia.
Next question is, Jeffrey, maybe you can answer this. On the road painting, the one from...
Wait a second, wait, time out. Is that true?
Go ahead and ask her.
What?
Do we actually pay for the postage for that?
Yes, we do.
It's unbelievable.
Well, then we do need to send a memo, then enough's enough. It's an issue that's over for 4 months already.
Yeah, this is sent out by Howell Township taxpayers.
So the decision is already made, we're paying postage for that society to send stuff to people that actually
We're
count
committed to
as what
giving
we did
both
at
sides
the-
of the issue to all the,
That's not good.
I'll send something to them to indicate, that it's been resolved, that the buildings are being removed as a safety hazard, that there was reports indicating that to restore them was a very large amount, and that we're in a negotiation with the builder to have them taken down at their expense. And that area has been dedicated as open space in any event.
Great days, it got hot here
Okay.
now.
What else do you have, Ms. Showmaker?
Jeffrey, in regards to the Director of Public Works memo on the zone, on the painting of the lines in the passing zones, it says that, it got hot in here now?
All right. So, no one knows.
It says it was never put out to bid and it now needs to go out to bid. Am I understanding that right? She's going back to 2002?
Yeah, well, it's now gotten where we budgeted, last year we budgeted enough, and this year we're budgeting enough that it now exceeds the bid threshold, and we're going to go out to bid.
So now we can do that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We
Just,
certainly can bid anything, but once it reaches 37,000, whatever it is, we have to bid at that point in time.
okay. So it's not something that hasn't been done since 2002? Okay, that's what I wanted. For all of you that have extra time on your hands, the Ramtown First Aid Squad is looking for volunteers. They're in dire need of volunteers on that. And Mayor, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Malave?
Just a couple quick things that came out of the Rec Advisory Committee meeting we had last week, or the week before. I forgot, I'm getting old. Anyways,
What's that make me?
happy to report that the Echo Lake Pavilion now is completely heated and AC. Thanks to the grants, monies that we acquire through the legislator's office, thanks to Senator Singer, this was accomplished. Also, the Rec Advisory Committee meeting, committee here in Howard Township is accepting donations of new and/or slightly used sports equipment, gloves, bats, balls, things like that. And this is to, actually, they're going to donate this to Cameron Parish in Louisiana, somewhere in Louisiana, I forgot the town, that was devastated by Hurricane Rhea, which came after Katrina, believe it or not. So you could call the rec department if you want to donate something, equipment of some sort. Their extension is 2501, or you can bring it yourselves to the rec department, hand it to me, or anybody on the Rec Advisory Committee meeting will be happy to accept it. Also, just as a reminder, Howard Day at the Blue Cross game, it's second week in May. The date escaped me, I didn't write it down, I apologize for that. But if more information is forthcoming. Again, we're looking for sponsors to purchase and donate some tickets so that we can provide some kids the opportunity to attend the game. Last year was a big success. We want to make it even bigger this year. So keep that in mind, Blue Cross, second week in May. I don't know the date yet, so I apologize.
Is it a Monday, Tuesday?
I don't know. You can call the extension 2501. They'll be happy to tell you. Also, Mr. Mayor, I know that it's been some talked about us, although it's a county road, going to the county to request or insist that they either put a light up or at least look at the situation at Old Town Road by the DPW. Spring is forthcoming, coming quite quickly. And obviously, the kids will be crossing the street again there with, Little Leagues and so forth. So I don't know if Mr. Davis or anybody has reached out to the county to see what's going on with that.
Actually,
But-
Mr. Nunziato had a report tonight, but he left ill. I will get something for you. I'll ask him to put it in writing instead, so that
Okay.
you have an update on that.
Good, thank you. Mr. Mayor, because of the lack of time here, it's getting late, I'm going to pass on the other notes I have. Thank you.
Go ahead, Peter. You have
And speaking of sports, I know it's been a pretty successful year in the high school for us this year. We had the football team we honored last week, and I know the girls' basketball team was actually in a quarterfinal playoff game at the Rataco Center tonight at 8 o'clock, which if this meeting wasn't happening, I would have been at. Anybody know if they won? No?
I'm sure they did.
Well, let's hope. They were playing a number one team.
Yeah,
I
you
need
know-
to respond. Pardon?
Why, you don't know who they were playing?
I think it was Rumson Fair, but anyway, I do need to respond to the senior center comment. I'm going to pass on everything else. We had our first budget meeting a couple of Saturdays ago, I guess it was now, and during the course of the discussions, I had mentioned that we had received this audit, this efficiency audit back, and to me, it seemed like we were going through the budget process actually backwards. That now that we had this audit, we should actually go to a high level and decide the major things first, and then get down into the weeds, decide some of the little things that we always talk about at every one of those budget meetings. And for example, at one point, when Carol Zora, the director of the senior center, was speaking, Bruce had actually mentioned that the senior center was not a part of the audit, and I actually corrected him in saying that it was mentioned in the audit and that it possibly should be considered to be under a different silo. And that was a general comment, not a specific comment that we had come to some policy decision, but that in and of itself, that audit speaks to a lot of things. And for the most part, it speaks to not only improving efficiencies, but also having us enabled to receive more grant monies and just get monies better and save expenses a little bit better. So long term, I just want to assure everybody out there that as part of that audit, what it does definitely say is that this is a growing township, already with 52,000 people. And more services are needed. And more services, they specifically mention, more services are needed for seniors and for the teenagers in this town that don't necessarily participate in active sports. So those are two areas it specifically said where we need more services. So even though there was some suggestions as to where things might fall into what silos, it wasn't meant that it should then curtail those activities or even reduce those activities. It was doing it in a way where it said we need to provide more services in a more efficient way. So it was kind of taken out of context by some. And before the rumors get out of hand, believe me, this council wants to provide more services if possible in a better way, where it's not as expensive, let's say. So I do need to respond to that. And other than that, being the hour, I will pass on a lot of other things I was going to talk about.
I just have a couple. Mr. Davis, have we heard back from New Jersey Transit on the bus shelters they're installing at no cost at Aldridge? I continue to get a lot of questions from residents that they've not been installed, and do we have anything?
I called Mr. O'Gorman yesterday. Not yesterday, Friday. No, it wasn't Friday either. It was Thursday. And
You got to pull your mic down, Mr. Davis. They can't hear you.
he assured me that they will be in. He keeps being told that they're going to be put in by the contractor, but they had a major problem up in Raritan Center or something with shelters they put in, which has kept them on that job a lot longer than anticipated, so they haven't gotten to us. The shelters are in, but they haven't been installed yet, and that's what we're waiting on. So he's saying another couple of weeks.
Okay. You'll keep us posted, please?
Yes, sir.
The other is the handicap spots at that park and ride. I know we budgeted for it, feels like it was 2 years ago, to have it done, and the night before I got here, I had gotten a call from a resident who's contacted us previously. By the time they get there, there's not enough handicap spaces, and we've got the money budgeted, and there's been no real update in terms of the repainting of the spots and the improvements to the lot. And I don't know what we can tell this resident, but we need to help them.
I know that the township engineer and buildings and grounds were out at the site. They were staking out or measuring off where the additional metered parking would be, where the handicap parking would be, and they're ordering the meter. It's not going to be individual meters. It's I forgot what it's called. It's
The box.
a box. So all of that is in process.
Is there any way that we can put out a notice to the commuters? And maybe post something near the shelters, but just some general
Probably.
update, because we all appreciate that it takes time to put the bid specifications together, it goes out to bid, but in the interim, the people that are paying to park there want an update.
Okay.
So there is a spot inside the shelters, I'm pretty sure. Mrs. Schlegel's here, and I know she has had responsibility on and off for those. But there is a spot where you can post notices in there, because we posted one that the shelters were coming, and the shelters haven't come. So we can give them a general update on all the things that we're doing there. I think that would be a help.
Okay. We can do that.
Do we know the status of the speed humps? Are they here?
Again, I'll check with Mr. Nunziato. He hasn't updated me in the last week or two on
Okay.
that.
Okay,
So I can't answer that for you.
Okay.
I'll get you the answer.
okay. You had something else, Mrs. Showmaker?
Mr. Davis, about a year and a half ago, I had recommended, and I know that you did do this, send a letter to Monmouth County in regards to adopting some of our roads for county roads to alleviate some of the repairs, so on and
Yes.
so forth, from the township. Have we recently, can we do a follow-up to find out? Because I know it, with the change and things that have been going on.
Well, I would be happy to revisit that with them, but the latest response we received, first they expressed some interest in Aldrich Road, and that was it. The other roads that we put on that list, they were not interested in. But
Aldrich Road would be a good road right now for them to
yeah,
take.
it would be good. Too bad it's been recently paved. I mean, we absorbed all
Well,
that cost.
not only that, I mean, for the
But,
light.
Well, maybe we could get them to do the light, but as time went on, they said they would consider Aldrich Road if we took Old Tavern here in front of the DPW and the municipal complex, which is a county road, which actually would work to our benefit because we have to jump through a lot of hoops and anytime we want to do something on that road, such as the lighted signs and the crosswalks and all of that.
So why don't we put that on for discussion then?
But then in speaking to Mr. Nunziato, he said they've kind of gotten lukewarm. But I think if we revisit that, there may be some renewed interest if we tell them we'll take this road in exchange for them taking Aldrich. Does the council have any interest in me pursuing that along those lines?
I thought we had talked about, we wanted to
Yeah.
pursue it
You
previously.
did, but
Yeah.
you didn't, the last indication I got was you really weren't interested in taking Old Tavern Road.
Go ahead.
Don't you think that it would benefit us that this would be a township-owned road?
Yes,
If it's a
absolutely.
benefit because of the park being here.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. But
Well, I think it should be set up so that we, especially in light of what Councilman Marvelvey pointed out, that spring's coming and we do have a traffic problem there and we're restricted on what we can and cannot do on that road.
Well, let them put the light first, before we take it over.
No, we're trying to, well,
they're not going to pay to do that. We're going to have to pay to do that.
but we can have them
just
put
have
one
to
on Aldridge Road.
We have to get their permission and do it in accordance with their specifications.
Right.
Because they own the road.
Road. That's the problem. Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing with the sports. I had the privilege this winter of going to like 6 or 7 wrestling matches, and they also won their division. They were ranked number 8 in the state,
Yep.
our wrestling team in Howell. Did an outstanding job. That's coach did a wonderful job with the young men, and I'd love to see them and the basketball team here one night.
I have a call, like we did with the football program, I have a call into the high school, inviting them to come for a similar night of presentation. So we're working on that to get them here so that we can recognize their efforts as well.
Well, thank
So
you,
we're,
Mayor.
my pleasure.
Saturday's volunteer thing.
Okay. A couple of final things that I had. Mr. Davis, we heard back on the Pine View grocery store. We have this memo that went to
Jet,
Mr. Phillips, the construction official.
Yes.
it's collapsing, right?
The buildings out, there's about 10 or 12 outbuildings or cottages, as well as the grocery store itself, some of which are in far worse condition than the grocery store, although the grocery store needs to, Mr. Phillips indicated that is an attractive nuisance and a safety hazard. The roof is collapsed in the center, I believe, of the structure. Such is the case with most of the other cottages. However, we've come to find out that there is an elderly woman still living in one of the cottages.
The bigger one, the white one.
So, but Mr. Phillips is working on that. There is a process we have to go through. He's right now contacting the owner and asking him to, on his own, take down the existing structures. If the township does it, we have a legal process we have to go through, and then the cost of which is put as a lien on the property. So it is in process, and he has indicated that all those buildings need to come down.
So when will we have sort of the official next steps and actionable
Well,
items?
he's giving a couple weeks for the owner to respond.
Okay.
He is keeping me in the loop on that, so, and that's one of the things that's in my status book.
Okay. The final thing is, this Saturday at the Our House Tavern at 12 o'clock is the first annual volunteer appreciation event for any volunteer that served on a township board, commission, or committee in calendar year 2005. It's something that the council wanted to do as a way to thank all of the people that contribute a lot of their time and energies on a volunteer basis, be it planning board, zoning board, cultural arts, rec advisory, all of the different boards and committees. So this is a new thing that we started this year. It is at 12 o'clock, and all of those that served in any capacity in '05 have been invited. We've got a good number of them were able to be there, and this is an official way that the municipality would like to thank and recognize anyone that served in a position in 2005. I know that the clerk's office has done a terrific job, Mr. Pody in particular, in putting that event together and getting the invitations out to all of the appropriate people, and we think this is an appropriate tribute. She did it all, an appropriate tribute to the people who really give of their time. And then next year, if the governing body agrees to do it again, it would be anyone that served in 2006 in some capacity, and we hope that this will become somewhat of a tradition in the township. Anything else anyone has? Okay. Mr. Davis, did you have anything under reports?
No, sir.
Okay, we are going to go to hearings of citizens. We have 9 people. The time is 10 minutes of 10. We're going to stick to an hour, as is our policy because of the lateness of the hour already, and we have another full agenda to get through. First person is Mr. Ed Kelly. He's right in front. Good evening, Mr. Kelly. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Kelly.
If you would, please just give us your name and address for the official record.
Ed Kelly.
Make sure it's on.
Ed Kelly.
Is-
This thing working?
Is the
Turn it
red light
upside-
on?
Is there a red light on when you look down?
Yeah.
Okay, then just pull it real close.
Ed Kelly, 75B, William and Mary Square, Freehold, New Jersey, 07728. What I'm here for is from the last report that I gave you people on December 20th. We're still not getting the American flags raised or lowered when the governor and the president of the United States want them. Sometimes the school has them up when they're supposed to be down, and sometimes it's vice versa with the township. I don't want to go, we're still not doing what we've been trying to do since June of 2004 with all the meetings that I had with the manager/clerk, and it's still, the last time we had something was for Mrs. King. The president wanted the flag down. I gave a letter from the president, a proclamation. I delivered it to the clerk's office. I gave it to Penny and let her know that, for her to get in touch with the Public Works Department, and so that they'd lower the flag. But it wasn't done by 11:30, and so I finally had to talk to Millie at the Public Works Department, and then it got done. This is an ongoing problem. It should have been only a 6-month problem in 2004, but there's a lot of politics and everything else that I don't want to get into. The other thing I'm reporting on is
I really wish you would get into it, since you alluded that there were politics involved. I'd like to know what it is.
It's about time. It's the first time you had a meeting when I could report something. The other thing that I was going about was the disorderly person award that I got from the engineering department. At that time, I told you that I was trying to get a meeting with the chief of police since the 18th of October. On that night, I still hadn't heard anything, but the next night, which was the 21st, I got a call from the secretary of chief of police that I could have a meeting with him on January 18th. I can get to see Sheriff Oxley, even up in Canada. I can get up to see the mounted police faster than I could get to see the chief of police here. When I did have the meeting with him, I went over what the report was all about. He was going to set up a meeting with Mr. Phillips. At that time, I left. A week later, I called up his secretary, mentioned that they hadn't set up a meeting yet, and then by the February 7th, when I was supposed to talk to you people again, but you had a long meeting that time, they changed it that I was supposed to go see Mr. Phillips on my own, which I didn't think was the proper thing to do, being that Mr. Phillips was the one that called the police department on this report. So that's where we stand now. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for all the help that you gave me and all the council people. I know, Mr. Walsh, you're new from my problems that I had before, but I want to thank you all. You've been all doing a great job. Maybe I can get a meeting with the new township manager to set up a proper chain of command to get the flags up and down at the proper time. Okay? That's all I have. I know we're running late.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thanks for your comments. Next is Mrs. Dixell. Where are you, Mrs. Dixell? Is Mrs. Dixell? Oh, here she is. Okay. Welcome, Mrs. Dixell. Not at all. My thing isn't working again. I'm going to have to use one of you guys.
I'll have it up.
Good evening, Mrs. Dixell. Welcome. If you just, as always, give us your name and address for the record.
How is
Barbara
Jerry doing?
Dixell, the Villages. Not good. Not good. Yeah, he's really sick. Several things. Okay, number one, there's one sign in front of the Villages with a 4-ton weight limit on it. It's the only sign on Wyckoff Mills Road. We do need more 4-ton weight limit signs on Wyckoff Mills Road. It's a township road, it's not a county road. We have NJT buses going on that road. I guess as a shortcut to the garage. They're usually empty when they come down Wyckoff. And they're coming, like, I guess, off Route 9 or whatever, or off, could be Hall's Mill or whatever.
Thank you.
But they come down there, and then they make the left, go into the garage. I'm sure those buses are over 4 tons. There's a lot of large trucks and stuff, so we need more enforcement, and we need another couple of signs on Wyckoff Mills Road.
Okay.
Township, I had to go to Morristown to see my husband in the hospital day after, that was Monday. Everything was dry from County Road 524 to Morristown, except Wyckoff Mills Road. That was the only road. And I went slipping and sliding down Wyckoff, and I pulled into Perkins parking lot to call the non-emergency number of Howell Police to alert them that Wyckoff was a sheet of ice, and they said they had just cleared an accident off Wyckoff Mills Road, and that they were aware that was so. They did a great job everywhere else. They did a fabulous job, but on Wyckoff, next time, could they just, being that there's so much traffic now because of the construction, the road construction on 524, there's a major increase in the amount of vehicles going up and down Wyckoff because a lot of people aren't taking County Road 524 because of all the major construction that's on the left there. So if they could just, the DPW could just make sure that that either gets sanded, plowed, or salted, I would appreciate it, because they had just cleared an accident off that one I did call.
Mr. Davis, can you maybe just have a follow-up conversation with DPW on the condition of Wyckoff, please? Okay.
Okay, the U.S. Homes, I am in receipt of the letter from the township. Did you guys get the letter from the township on U.S. Homes on the fence?
I haven't seen it
Okay,
personally. Have you-
it was
anyone
sent to
seen
U.S. Homes from the township.
I don't think we've gotten copies. Have you seen this?
Okay, well, Bruce, I know you got a copy because you guys got it. Okay. Do you want me to read to you real fast? It's a very short one.
Please.
Okay. At the January 17th, 2006 council meeting, resident Barbara Dixell voiced concerns pertaining to the size and location of houses abutting the village's community within the Manasquan River Park subdivision and future potential encroachments into the 50-foot perimeter buffer by new residents. I've been requested by the mayor and council to contact you and request your consideration for the installation of a PVC post and rail fence along the perimeter buffer along the village's property. This would address the concerns of the village's residents as to where lots end and discourage encroachments into the buffer or trespassing onto the village's property. Thanking you in advance for your cooperation in this matter. Please feel free to call should you need to discuss this matter. Very truly yours, William H. Nunziata, Township Engineer, and it was a CC to Charlie Muller and Bruce Davis, and it was sent to a Robert Calabro at U.S. Homes.
Okay.
Which is fine. Like I say, we've hung the maps. We know that there are there are 7 houses on Cuesto de Gomerez that are encroaching the setbacks of these houses are already encroaching by 2 to 5 feet into the buffer. And the 2 houses that are smack on the line on Corso Italia in Village 2 are there isn't, you can't put a hair in between that. They're on the line. So that would be, I guess, fine with us, for the post and rail fence, as long as we know that those homeowners are going to know where their property ends. But if it's possible, could we possibly set up a meeting with the township and U.S. Homes and us and our board and, pull the map, one of 6, because I have all the maps. The county was good enough to give them to me, and mark off where the encroachments are. So,
I think it's a very good idea.
so could we just have, a sit-down meeting with a village's board and me and U.S. Homes and the township and, go over it and come and, yeah, and, fully understand.
It's a good idea and it's a good request. Does everyone agree with that? Anyone have an objection?
No, I think it's
Okay. Mr. Davis, would you work with Mrs. Dixell and the village's board? We have, obviously, the trustees of the board to work and arrange with whoever the principal was from U.S. Homes and have them have that sit-down. I'm certain they'll be a good neighbor and coordinate that meeting.
And then maintenance of the fence would be the homeowner's responsibility or U.S. Homes' responsibility? It can't be ours.
Well, it certainly wouldn't be the village's responsibility. I don't know that level of detail has been worked out yet. So it certainly was not the intention that it would be the
But
village's.
this is a step in the right direction, being that we're deeply
Agreed.
concerned
Yep.
over,
That's why we made certain
over where
that-
some of these encroachments have already, okay. I'm going to give just a quick, on some of these things, 9A3, can you, I'm just going to go real quick.
Yeah. 9A3, Mrs. Dixell, is within the township's police department, we now have a emergency response part-time staff that supplements the great job our volunteers do.
Okay.
We are able to actually bill individuals private insurance in the event that their insurance coverage has coverage for ambulance care. We can actually bill the individual's insurance so that we can get compensation for the township.
But I thought the ambulance service is free.
No, that's the volunteer ambulance service. So this only applies to the services that are provided by the municipality through the police department.
Okay.
The services are still free. Make no mistake about it. Anyone who lives in the town doesn't get a bill. Their insurance company may, and if their insurance company doesn't cover ambulance care, the resident still doesn't get a bill.
Okay.
But we're trying to take advantage of
Well,
every
the
opportunity
insurance
to
company
bring
may
in
turn around
revenue.
and bill the resident.
But they could certainly do that today.
Right.
But actually, there wouldn't be, because we're not actually submitting a bill
Okay.
where there would be a required service.
Okay, 9A4, where would that zone be?
9A4, this is amending, and just for the record, 9A3 is titled Establish and Implement a Third-Party Payment Plan for Emergency Medical. 9A4 is the hotel and/or conference center as conditional use in the HD1 and the HD Development
Now, I know you had to
2
pull that the
zones.
last time because of
Yeah,
some
there was
kind
a
of mathematical
technical,
problem.
there was a mathematical problem in the
Yeah.
number of parking spaces. Unfortunately, I don't have, my computer isn't up, so Mrs. Showmaker, would you call it up and get the backup specifics? They're
Yeah,
trying
like what
to fix
end
my
of town-
laptop.
What end of town are we talking about?
Do you want to comment on this one, Pete? I know this is yours.
Well, let me pull it up.
Okay.
Just reading, I think it has to do with general.
It-
We all know about
It's
the
general.
hotel.
It's in all the HD1
all
and 2
HD1.
zones.
Okay.
It's nothing specific, it's just.
Just wherever HD.
Wherever HD1 and
HD1
2 is.
and
I didn't
HD2.
know if you wanted us to give you the specific
Oh,
parcels, because we probably have them on the backup. There's a
well,
lot of them, obviously.
It establishes conditional use in those zones,
Okay.
subject to certain conditions, if they
I
meet
mean,
the
but you're
conditions.
going to have to need room to have it, so it has to be a pretty good-sized
Well,
piece of property.
Yeah, I believe it's
It doesn't give you blocks
X
and
acres.
block.
Good. Deputy Mayor, you have a comment?
I think it's public knowledge that there has been a hotel and conference center looking at, actually it's a Holiday Inn, looking at the Interstate 195-9 intersection. There
Right.
has been
No, I know
other
that. We said that.
hotel conference centers looking at Highway 33 at different times. So those tend to be the two locations.
I just,
This would create specific criteria to make
Right.
certain, we had a process around how these particular kinds of uses could be conditionally fit into those
yeah,
zones.
all right. Okay. 9A7, what would,
9A7.
residency requirement liaison representative to township. Sewerage authorities, what would that be?
That's the request of the council to ensure that representatives
To Mercer.
to Marissa are residents of the
Look at this
township.
computer, what it did, what? Shut it down.
Okay.
There's been an issue with regard to whether a present member is a resident or not.
There we go.
Okay, I said the lady, okay, I remember that one.
What else, Mrs. Dixon?
Okay, just a couple of things, I have just questions, because I know when you vote on this stuff, it's
Sure.
already,
These are just introductions of
Yeah,
the
these are
public hearings on all
introductions.
these.
Okay,
All
well-
these ordinances are to be introduced.
okay.
So
well,
these are not, there's public hearings that will still be held on all of
Next
them.
month.
Okay, all right, then I'll go to resolutions.
What do you want to know?
9B5,
Make sure that it does not apply to volunteers. 9B5, you said?
authorize the redrafting of the township zoning map in accordance with direction of Monmouth County Superior Court.
Yeah, after the judge's decision on a lot of the properties that were involved in the 6-acre zoning,
Right.
the town apparently did not adopt or go back and correct what appeared on the map to be 6-acre, when the judge in fact determined they were 2. So we need to officially correct the zoning maps so that they reflect those areas to go back to 2-acre as a result of the lawsuit.
That was a lawsuit.
That was the lawsuit, where the township lost.
Okay. 9B9, reduction number 1, Savannah at Howell, Colts Neck Road.
While you're looking it up, I just want to make one comment on the last. Jill, that is the reason for the meeting that needs to be set up with Mr. Nunziato, and so that the zoning map reflects that do change on those ARE2 areas in SED. Because right now, it doesn't reflect that, and there was some conflict at the master plan.
9B9,
Okay. 9B9, Savannah at Colts Neck Road. We would normally ask Mr. Nunziato, Mr. Davis, you're going to have to pinch hit. Could you please, obviously, we've got, until someone calls up the backup, you probably have it more quickly.
It's just a reduction in performance guarantees for public improvements.
Do you have a question or a concern, Mrs. Dixon?
I just want to know what it was, I'd never heard of it before. Savannah at Howell, that's a development coming up?
Yes.
Is a development, Mr. Davis said, is coming up, or is it a development that's in process? I mean, a lot of the operating names aren't what appear on the sign.
There's a request to reduce the performance bond, so I'm assuming that the site plans, the site work has been improved to a certain degree, so they're looking for a pro rata reduction,
It's up on Colts Neck Road.
dealing with roads and public utilities, that type of thing.
All right, can I just say
doesn't say
that,
that.
reduction, in authorized reduction, sometimes I would look at these things twice and 3 times before you reduce what these people have to put up, because
Agreed.
we wind up holding the bag.
Well, Mr. Davis, what is Mr. Nunziato's written recommendation in terms of why his office has approved this or has recommended to us that we approve this?
He's essentially recommending a 50% reduction from $64,461.96 to $33,507.96.
What's the basis, though? I mean, why? I mean, what's the rationale behind, what's the business rationale behind why a lesser amount is required?
Because they have done more than 50% of the public improvements.
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
on page 6, it shows a sheet of various,
He sent the
things we've done
memo,
already.
Bill Herring, that basically, under the law, they're entitled to get a reduction once we go out, inspect, and recommend that a reduction in the bond goes. So,
Okay.
the cash went from 64,000 to 33,000, and
So here's the distinction, Mrs. Dixell. They put up a full bond. We're now reducing how much they have to continue to hold based on satisfaction of the
No,
criteria.
I just don't want us to get stuck holding
Right.
the bag like we sometimes do, with different builders and performance bonds.
this
that-
is based on the law and based on
Okay.
the township engineer's review, and we don't do anything until they sign off on it.
I just have two more questions, 2 more question marks.
It says,
9B13,
it says emergency
authorized
medical
refund
services.
unused escrow. King George, Inc., is that the Jiffy Lube on 9 South?
What was that, 9 what?
9B13?
9B13. Yeah, it does say Jiffy Lube in
That's the one on
parenthetical.
9 South.
Right.
Okay. And 9B23, and I'm done.
9B23, authorized grant application, fiscal year '07, Green Acres,
She
500,000.
wasn't here, you weren't here for the,
There's going to
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Davis. Why don't you give Mrs. Dixell the
There's
abbreviated
going to be a
explanation?
public hearing on the grant application later on in the meeting. We're seeking from Green Acres $500,000 to defray the cost of the environmental center that was presented to the council, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago.
by Tiffany. And,
This is that process is beginning. We hope to get it built with grant money, and this is the start of that.
But we're not going to bond for that at all.
No, it's a grant that we're applying for. There's no guarantees we're going to get it, but we have a good shot.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Like
Okay.
I said, I haven't been able to be around, unfortunately, for a while.
Please give your husband our best.
I appreciate it, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mrs. Dixell. Nice to see you. Mr. Ken Allen. Welcome, Mr. Allen.
And you'll set up that meeting with,
Mr.
with
Davis
the West
will
Holmes
work on
all
that,
of us
and
the
we'll
Board of
circle back to
Trustees, and
you.
that would be good. Thank you.
Yeah, the other follow-up item for you, Mrs. Dixell, was looking at it in additional signage, obviously, in the Wyckoff Road area, so we have that. Yep.
And you need more enforcement, you
Okay.
need more enforcement, thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Dixell. Hello, Mr. Allen, welcome. As always, just please give us your name and address.
Okay, I'll sit down, I don't want you to strain your necks. Ken Allen, Squonkam, Yellowbrook Road. I just have 2 things tonight, quickly. One, and I guess this is probably the more important one. I went to the watershed meeting on the 17th of January, and during the meeting, a discussion came up about basically the dues that the townships pay into the watershed, which is a yearly cost. I don't know if you remember, last year I came before you and asked that, because Howell has actually 2 appointees to that committee.
That's right.
That, we should be donating our part of their cost. And you guys agreed that that would be done. I was a little embarrassed to find out when it came up for 2006 that we had not even given in the money for 2005.
Was something sent
So
into the township?
We apologize that you were
they,
in that position.
I asked, I've got an email here from Steve Taylor. I asked him to please go back and check before I came before
Right.
anybody to make sure. And he did, and he said that, we had not contributed.
Do you know if they've
anything.
sent an invoice? I mean,
They send
that,
us an
typically we
invoice.
need an invoice or a
I-
purchase order or something,
Tell you
not a
the
purchase
truth,
order in this
I
case,
don't
but an
know.
invoice.
Probably Steve Taylor would be the best one.
I'll have to call him then.
If you need me to do anything, let me know. I'll be happy to help out.
I mean,
And
we
if-
clearly gave the direction for the monies, as you know, to be
Yeah,
appropriated, so
yeah.
it's a function of, fellas, we need to get,
Well, we would need the invoice to generate the...
all right, will you reach out to Mr. Taylor and see
Yeah.
to it we
So-
satisfy that expense?
Okay. And can
It'll be done.
Can we do 2005 and 6? Is there a problem?
Well, no, if we owe them '05, and
I don't think
we've
that'd
already
be a
committed to
problem.
'06, I mean, we have to...
It's like a total
Is
of
that a problem,
500
Jeff?
for the 2 years. I think it's about 250 a year for the township.
Doesn't seem to be a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a big one. I just want to get that out of the way because we do have two appointees.
Absolutely. You're
and,
one of
that
them.
attend the meeting, so. Another question for you on tonight's agenda. On item 10.1, discussion item, see, it's a good thing I came tonight. I would have missed this. Can somebody explain to me what 10.1 is all about? I think it's something I'm not going to like.
Sure.
But I just want to be sure I'm not.
Well, we don't know if we're going to like it yet either. I mean, it's a
we gotta
discussion
do it.
item, and Mr. Filiatro is he's going to talk with us about it on discussion, but would you explain for
Sure.
Mr. Howell's purpose?
This has to do with the Route 9 South Sewer project, where the property owners are going to be assessed the cost of that sewer. So they will pay for it, the ratepayers will not, as a whole. In connection with that, they will they will be assessed based on the rules and regulations, connection fees. And talking with the sewer operator, who also is a consultant with Freehold Township and has done this several times more often than we have, it seemed a fair and equitable way to waive one connection, which means that the single-family house, and I think there's one 70-year-old woman that we know that came to hearings that owns a house there, would not pay a connection fee because they're going to be assessed the cost of the sewer. Yet a commercial property that has multiple units will only be waived the one connection fee that a house would be waived. So they would, if there are 4 units, based on rules and regulations, they would pay 3 connection fees rather than 4. And it was felt that would be fairer since we have a mix of both residential and commercial on that road right now.
Okay, well, but when you say they'll be waived, someone is in essence going to pay this fee at some point. I mean, the
No.
township will pay it?
No.
You're just doing away.
The
in other words,
connection
you're not
fee
gonna
is,
collect
the
money.
connection fee is designed in the normal course of the operation of the sewer to reimburse for the debt service that has been paid over the years for those lines that are in the ground when the people connect. In this case, they're paying for the entire cost of the line. So they really, the connection fee would just be additional revenue to the sewer utility.
Okay, so
That would not really offset any debt since they're paying all, there's no final debt in
Another
this.
great
They'll be
explanation.
paying for it.
So basically, it's not coming out of the Howell
No.
Township funds at all?
No, no.
It's a non-entity.
The
as
big
far as
gist of
payment
this is
concerned.
how do you equalize out a single-family house that would be charged one connection
Right.
fee
Okay.
versus, say, a restaurant that might be charged 6 or 10 or 12? And we wouldn't want to waive all connection fees because, that's not equitable to everybody in the area. And it was decided, since there is some residential there, that waiving one would be equitable, allows the single-family homeowner there to connect without a connection fee.
Okay, no problem. I just remember when you get to Squonkam Yellowbrook Road, I want the same deal. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. And it's a discussion item, so that you know, we
Sure.
haven't really even opened it up yet.
Okay.
So you're aware they are,
With that, let me know. Okay.
Mr. Allen, so you're aware they are going to be assessed somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,000 an acre for the cost of the sewer, so not necessarily.
Okay, the next person is Mr. John Librio. Where is Mr. Librio? Welcome, Mr. Librio. As always, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
John Librio, 35 Starlight Road. Good evening.
Hi, Mr. Librio.
The ordinances that I introduced to you guys and suggested to you back on February 7th for amending, what is the status?
We actually got a copy of them. I think, Mr. Davis, we all saw your note to Mr. Gannon to have him look at them and come back to him with recommendations. Do we know, Mr. Gannon, when you're going to, I think we all agreed with those recommendations. We're just waiting to hear back from your office.
I had requested to be put on for a workshop in March so we can give our
Okay.
legal opinion. But if in fact that was the consensus, then we can speed up the process. With regard, if it was your consensus that every one of those recommendations was to be adopted. I'm not sure if I got that consensus.
I'll start with you, Mr. Maloney.
I wasn't here for that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you had left.
Mr. Vasco, you don't recall the specifics? You have a
I
comment?
thought what we said is we had his recommendation sent to the township attorney for him to give us, him to review them and get back to us. I didn't think that was...
Most of them looked like they were policy decisions, but there
Yeah.
was a couple issues that I have to bring up. I can't recall off the top of my head, but...
I think one of them was
There's some
ensuring that the
clarifications.
nepotism applied to domestic partners, for
Right.
example.
Yes, and the other one's related to the same thing of adding
Yes.
appointed officials as well as
That's
elected.
correct. I think those were the primary.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so those can be, if you want, we can draft the individual ordinances and then...
Do it one time.
But there was one with the domestic I have to look at in terms of the statutory criteria to make sure we have to adopt that into our ordinance.
So does it make sense that you can, perhaps, based on what you find out on the domestic partner issue, you can have it ready for us?
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is maybe
the
having
March workshop?
the ordinances, there's a number of ordinances, this is not a single ordinance.
Right.
That they be prepared in draft form, subject to our legal comment, and then mayor and council can make a decision. But I'm assuming that what you heard and what John put forth, you had no objection to at this point.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any, Mr. Walsh, do you have a comment on it? No, okay. Is that,
Yeah, that's, okay.
Okay.
9B 16 and 17 refers to a Wendy's restaurant. Can you tell me where on that intersection is this Route 9 and New Friendship Road? Where is this going to be placed?
I think it's going to be right on the corner of where PNC Bank is.
I think there's a huge sign there.
Yeah.
That grassy part there?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. And I know before you mentioned about invitations for volunteers for this luncheon on Saturday, and I'm sure they all went out. But once again, I hate to say it this way, but
you didn't get
another
one?
slap for the ORC. I didn't get an invitation, but don't waste your 39 cents or your phone call, because I won't be there.
I'm certain it was...
Just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
And the last thing was, I wanted to wish Bruce a lot of luck. I know this is his last official meeting as town manager.
That's right.
They should have kept you as town manager and hired for a clerk from within the office. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Librio. Okay. I don't want to mispronounce the last name, and I can't really tell from the handwriting. It looks like it's Kathy Bariani from Windswept Lane. She left, okay. Jay Migliaccio, welcome, Mr. Migliaccio. As Mr. Migliaccio comes up, Mr. Davis, since this resident left, when I give you back the list, she had an inquiry here dealing with trees for Windswept Lane. She leaves a phone number since she had to leave. Could we call and follow up and see how we can help her? Okay.
Jay
Hello, Mr. Migliaccio.
Estelle Lane. I had a statement prepared, but on the advice of council, I'm going to wait for a more appropriate venue. And I also want to say thank you to Mr. Davis for his stint as manager. I think you did a great job, and I think you should have remained as manager. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, next, Mr. Steve Merlino. Welcome, Mr. Merlino.
That's the last one.
No, we have, there's one
Mr.
after
Curry.
that.
How many more, just one?
Just one after Mr. Merlino.
Wow.
Mr. Merlino, welcome. Just please give us your name and address for the record.
Steve Morlino, Peachstone Road. Just had a few items I wanted to discuss. Echo Lake Pavilion, I understand we now have a HVAC system in there, so it's a fully conditioned facility, able to be used all year round. Is that correct?
Yes,
That is
heating and air conditioning.
That's terrific. Are we going to change the use policy of that building in any way?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Okay, I'd like to ask that you consider opening that building to public groups, to nonprofit organizations, clubs, et cetera, at a no-fee basis for use by members of this community who have foot the bill for the facility. And now that it's available all year round, I would certainly appreciate the use of the facility by the community on a no-fee basis for nonprofit, public-type meetings. So
That's a good
I'd like
idea.
you to consider that.
Well, I
That's
think
a
that's
great
the
idea.
case now, Mr. Molina.
I'm not sure how that works.
I think
Yeah,
that's the case now. I think if you want to reserve it, so that.
In other words, I want to use it, let's say I
want.
want to use it on Thursday evenings for the next year.
Well, if you want to reserve it, there's a fee, obviously. But obviously, if it's open to the, it's open to the public, so anybody can come.
Well,
in
that's
and
my
out.
question. When is it open to the public? And can, if it's not open,
Legal.
if it's not scheduled to be open, and a community group wants to use it, is there a fee, and
There
can
is a
we
fee.
waive the fee
There's
for the
certainly a
community
fee.
group?
We have the good fortune, we have our
Ms.
Parks and
Schlegel.
Recreation Director, Ms. Schlegel, and she can comment on it.
Please, come on down.
So if you would, Ms.
Take that
Schlegel,
price.
just for the benefit of the public,
For the record.
introduce who you are, and perhaps you can entertain Mr. Molino's inquiry.
Helene Schlegel, Director of Parks and Recreation. Presently, just to let the council know that we are running recreation programs in there 2 days a week during the day, and we are running them in 2 nights a week presently. Right now, we're using them for our programs, and hopefully the heating and air conditioning will allow us to expand our programs. As you know, our building is really not conducive to running children's programs. So we've moved some of our operations to Echo Lake. So although I understand that we need to open it to the public, I just want you to be aware that we're using it for township functions right now. During the summer, we are using it 5 days a week for our special needs teen adventure program. So I think it's something that we need to look at and we need to discuss as far as, how much time we're going to make available and
What do we do on an
Just to
overtime
clarify,
basis?
I'm
Well-
sorry, Mr.
I'm sorry, what do we do on an overtime basis? If it's open in the evening, for example, now we know.
That's an issue that I think Mr. Morlino is correct, that right now, it is not open
Right.
on the weekends for the public, because it is an overtime issue. So those are things that we need to look at, because he is
Okay.
correct.
It's not.
It's not open. And that's something that we need to address.
All right.
But
Do
through
you have a question?
normal
Hold on a
business
second. I
hours,
think
it's
Mr. Malabi had a
Well,
question
just,
before we get there.
Elaine,
I'm
if you
sorry.
could just clarify the fee issue for us, so I'm also
Okay,
clear
right,
on that.
well, by ordinance, it's allowed to be rented out once a month. Okay?
Mhm.
And that's $400 for 4 hours, a minimum of 4 hours. And what that money's for that's to cover the salary, the overtime issue, because generally, it's been rented out. When it's rented out, it's a weekend or Sunday or evening, so we're talking double time or a time and a half issue, and they get a minimum of 6 hours pay. That's contractual.
But normal business
So that money
hours-
actually gets deposited into the salary account that pays the salary of the person that's there.
During normal business hours here in the township, that building is always open to anyone
During business hours,
Mhm.
right?
to
That's
use
correct.
at no fee at any time. Okay.
Except, like I said, when we're doing programs there.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think it's something that we need to
All
look
right,
at.
Is that
I
something
agree
through,
with
Mr. Davis
Moreno.
stepped out, but can you look into that and give us your recommendations around a policy and some guidelines?
Right,
I'd ask that,
absolutely.
unless the council feels differently, that perhaps you can work that through Mr. Malave as the rec liaison, and maybe it's something even the rec advisory committee can get involved in, and we can get the position of the chair in the
We
committee.
can certainly discuss that.
Okay.
I think it's necessary that we look at that.
Thanks, Mr. Schlegel. Do you have anything else, Mr. Molina?
Yes, I have a few things. Just one more comment in that regard. Again,
Before you go, then.
I understand it's open during business hours, but the meetings I'm talking about are held by community members who all work during, quote, business hours.
Right.
So my meetings don't begin until 8 o'clock. I've been holding them at my home. We're a private nonprofit organization, and to pay $400 for use of this building to pay the salary for a minimum of 6 hours, I think would be a hardship on the taxpayers of the town who foot the bill for the whole place to begin with. So I wish you would consider that in your discussions and come up with some fee or some arrangement where we could put a deposit of $250 down and get the key, and we'll open the building and close it and make sure it's clean, et cetera, whatever the rules are, and use it. I mean, we're just looking for a room that's bigger than my living room to meet. So I wish you would consider that.
Mr. Merlino,
Okay.
I think that is something I think all of us fully agree with. In fact, we even discussed at the time asking the police department, that an on-duty police officer at the time, at the end of the night, to go and lock the building. Did we not discuss this?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
But, and actually, we just got done with the heating and air conditioning. So we definitely need to look at that immediately.
That building should be open and utilized 24/7.
Good.
It really should.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
Mrs.
agree.
Okay.
And I think the opportunity is now that we have a HVAC
Yes.
Right, now that it's
system in
done.
it. Okay, that's item one. I just wanted to comment on the flag issue. I heard the gentleman speak about flags before. He seems like a very patriotic individual, but I think he's pointing fingers in the wrong direction by somehow implying the manager's office is not timely. I'm involved with flag raising and lowering for multiple buildings, quite a few, 10 million square feet of buildings. And one of the issues we have is that let's take the Coretta Scott King flag lowering. A decree came out from the governor's office. In my particular case, it has to go to the State Department of Education from the governor's office. Then from the Department of Education, it's filtered down to every county board of education. They then distribute it to every school district. So by the time we got it, it was almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The flags were only lowered for one day. So sometimes the blame is not with the individuals that actually raise and lower the flags. So that again, I just want to stress that it probably wasn't the manager's office's fault that didn't happen. 9A4 talks about hotels and conference areas. I'm very concerned with one item in there that talks about a 6-story structure. This weekend, as you know, were fire elections here in Howell, and my fire tax levy in Southern Fire District 3 went up 39%. 39%. 37 people voted in the affirmative, 17 voted no. So the taxes will go up 39%. I still don't know why they're going up. No one has come out with a statement in public that I've seen anywhere to explain what the fee is or why the tax levy increase is necessary. And I'm sure maybe there's some basis for it. I'm not disputing that. My question now becomes, if we're allowing a 6-story structure to be built in Howell, and it should be built in Southern Fire District 3, if my taxes went up for no known explanation, 39%, what might happen if we have to buy equipment to go up to a 6-story building level to take care of any fire and life safety issues? That's a major concern of mine, and I believe our ordinance that you're proposing here is way too high for Howell Township. I think there should be a height restriction much lower than that. Perhaps 3 stories is the maximum we should be considering to preclude us from going out and buying some high-rise fire equipment and putting all kinds of ordinances in place regarding high-rise fire safety. There's lots of new codes and regulations in that regard, so I think you ought to reconsider that particular part of that ordinance. It might be problematic. The next item I'd like to talk about is I was somewhat appalled this last week to read several newspapers and read several articles in which the Howell Township Police Department was implicated in some form of alleged wrongdoing. I was appalled, absolutely disgusted to read allegations being made in public in the newspaper against our police department. I think we have one of the finest police departments in New Jersey. I think we have men and women that serve selflessly in this community. They volunteer and do all kinds of community-related work on their own time. And for these kinds of allegations to be made that actually called for a police investigation, my taxpayer dollars were spent investigating absolute baloney, nonsense, innuendo, lies, despicable lies that were made using the police department as a ping pong ball in this equation. I think it's terrible. I think this council, you, Mayor, owe the town an apology. As a matter of fact, you, Mayor, should step down and resign for lying in public, lying on the public record, and causing the taxpayers of this town to the embarrassment of an investigation by our police department of lies. I think it's despicable, disgraceful, and it's appalling. And there's no place for it in Howell Township.
Well, I'm going to give, when you're done, I'll respond.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to say was I'd like to thank Bruce Davis for his years of service here as manager. I think he's done an amicable job. He's done a yeoman's job in trying to please everybody, knowing the pushing and pulling that takes place at the manager's level. I think he's kept his head high. He's remained professional at all times. So, Bruce, kudos to you. Thank you.
Don't make any comment. Let it go.
The only statement I make is I'm not going to respond to what our politically motivated ambitions. I've had a conversation with the chief, the president of the PBA. We're having a meeting. We have a good open dialogue. At no time did I ever allege anything. I shared information that was presented with me, but I'm not going to respond to what are obviously politically oriented attacks that don't have a place in this room. One thing is for sure, I would never step down based on that individual's comments at any time, in fact. And I'm not going to stoop to the level. Sir, you're out of order, and no one has ever indicated anyone lied. And if you do it again, I'm going to ask you to please control yourself. Shouting out loud is not permissible. You had your time. You were up here at the microphone. Please act responsibly.
Very responsible. I still think you're...
Okay, you're out of order, and now you're trying to disrupt this process. So the fact of the matter is, it's not a healthy dialogue to have. I won't respond to baseless political attacks in these chambers. I have no tolerance for it, and we're going to move on.
I have one follow-up to one of the things he brought up, which was the height for the conference center. And specifically in pulling this up, it says maximum building height 6 stories, but no more than 70 feet. Now, I know we did not contribute to this. This had to be based on some planning document that may exist. But one thing he did bring up is who's responsible for bringing in the equipment to accommodate a fire that would happen, let's say, on the 6th floor. So that might be something we want to take into consideration, whereby whoever would be coming in to put in a conference center of this size, where they have a structure 6 stories or higher, maybe they, as part of their application, have to agree to put or pay for whatever infrastructure we need at the fire department districts to accommodate any fires at their building.
The only comment on that point, and Deputy Mayor Tabasco and I were contacted by the chief of the Freewood Acres Fire Company, who actually wants to have a meeting at the appropriate time to talk with the possible applicant for the 195 project, so that they can, in fact, make a presentation about sponsorships or about contributing toward the acquisition of equipment. The chief came to us, and it was his idea, and it was a good one. So if it ever comes to fruition, that certainly is something that we have to have a conversation.
But Tom, where it says
with
minimum
fire
lot
departments.
area 3 acres, minimum lot with 250 feet, minimum lot frontage 200, I mean, these are all something that came from some previously existing document, I'm sure.
Yeah, it came from our planner and his associates, and from the New Jersey Planning Commission that deals with conditional uses for hotels that meet certain requirements in certain zones. So, they're essentially, I don't believe it was custom crafted for any particular application, but it does deal with issues that municipalities deal with when they're dealing with hotels and related services and parking and that type of thing.
All right, so this, just to finish this off then, it's a double-edged sword. We want to encourage economic development, obviously, and our town is desperately in need of a conference center that can accommodate banquets of a massive amount of people, much beyond what Our House Tavern does per se. So, again, in encouraging ratables, we don't want to discourage them from considering our town by doing something that goes beyond what state requirements are, et cetera. So.
Okay. The next person, did you have anything else on this?
No.
Okay. Mr. Warren Curry, you're up next. I'll recognize you as soon as we're done with Mr. Curry, because we have a few minutes before the hour. Welcome, Mr. Curry. Just please give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Warren Curry, Georgia Tavern Road. Due to the transparency of some of the statements that have been made tonight, I don't think they deserve any addressing by me. And due to the late hour, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Miliacci, you have something you want to... Why don't you come up, so we got to get you on the record.
Did you do that?
He had a question on this hotel conference thing. Is it a quick question? Yeah. Okay. Just please give us your name and address again.
Yeah, Jay Miliaccio with Stowe Lane. During the fountains, we had discussed the 3-story building, and Southard, there was a question as to whether they had a piece of equipment that could get up high enough and far back enough, and it was just within the limits. It was also, Mr. Rago made it very clear, you could not require the developer to purchase a piece of equipment to service that. So you're talking about probably over $1 million for a piece of equipment like that. So we have to be very careful with 6 stories, because you want to make sure you have the right equipment, but also it shouldn't be on our backs to pay for it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miliaccio. All right, I'm going to close the public portion. Let's go to consent agenda items. Mr. Davis, you mentioned that we need a separate vote on which items, please?
9B23.
That's all?
Yeah, we need a hearing. We need
take a 30-second
a separate public hearing on that.
We'll take a, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess to let folks that are going to leave clear out.
Okay, Bruce, we have a quorum again. Cynthia, Juan, and I are up here. Let's get on to the consent agenda. Oh, here comes Bobby, too. Let's get on to the consent agenda item.
Go on. You running it?
Does anybody here on the dais have any questions on any of the consent agenda item?
Oh, I need to get a...
9A1 through...
We have some add-ons, but the only one that I need a separate vote on is 9B23.
Juan and Cynthia, you have any questions on any of the other ones?
I need you to add on 9B26, 27, 28, 29, and 30.
Were
And
those in
9C
our packets tonight, or?
Yeah, you got them. And 9C1 and 9C2.
Excuse me,
Sorry. Folks, would you, if you don't mind, we're back in session. If anyone needs to take any discussions outside, we would ask that you please do so. I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor, please proceed. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Bruce, go through those again. Which ones do we have to add on? 9B26 through 9B30?
I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention. I would like, as a side note, Mr. Davis, on 9.8A.
9 what?
9.8A. This is the amend the land use application checklist. I am extremely interested in what the comments are of our planning board attorney and engineer and planner.
Well, the recommendation came from the planning board attorney.
It came from the planning board attorney. I have some strong reservations on this.
Well, that's not one of the consent agenda, but we'll...
Yeah, but I just, so when it comes up, I'm just talking about, I'm sorry, you're talking about 9A. When it comes up for public hearing, I want to have the remarks in the interim of things. I don't want to come on March 21st and say, oh, let's pull this. Okay?
So which one were you talking
She wants
about?
on 9A8.
All right.
I just think that we need to have some more...
We had some documentation weeks before
Right.
from the planning board
I
engineer.
know that this was on a recommendation of the attorney.
Right.
This is something that hasn't, I can tell you, it's something that's being utilized now that wasn't when I was on the planning board 7 or 8 years ago. But it kind of belabors some of the things that before...
I got the impression from what I read from Mr. Cachero that this would tighten up the process.
Yeah, being on the planning board last year, I know that almost every single case, there were things that didn't follow what state laws had been changed in the last couple of years. So he was doing this from an attorney viewpoint to make it where it would sail through without having to get waivers and variances as much.
Right.
And then Cynthia's point is right on, though, that we should also get the engineering perspective on that for the same reason, so that when people come through for their applications, it isn't necessarily a forced waiver or variance process.
Right.
All right, we back on, we're doing consent agenda.
you can,
All right,
take over,
9B23, we need a separate hearing. I'm going to open up the public for a hearing.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
We should put on consent.
Consent agenda.
Right, he wanted to also add a few, which
Oh,
we
you want
haven't.
to, there's add-ons?
Yes, 9B26
20.
through 9B30 and 9C1 and 2 need to be added.
We need to do that by vote, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll ask for a motion, please, to add to the agenda 9B26 through 30 and add on 9C1 and 2.
So move, Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any remarks on the add-on? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malavey?
yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes.
Now, we need to pull 9B23 according to Bruce and vote on that separately.
Yeah, we need a separate, we actually need a public hearing, apparently, on 9B23. This is authorized grant application for fiscal year 2007, Green Acres Program, $500,000. This is for a proposed Howell Township Environmental Center. Resolution authorizes execution of Green Acres Program for 2007 for grant monies for a possible environmental center. I'm going to open the meeting to the public. Anyone who'd like to be heard on this particular matter, please come forward. Okay, let the record reflect no one has requested to be heard. I'm going to close the public portion on this item. Let's have a separate motion, please, and second on 9B23.
The motion to approve 9B23 to authorize the grant application for the fiscal year 2000 Green Acres Program.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second, Mayor.
Motion and a second. Are there any remarks?
Yes, this again is for the Howell Township Environmental Center, which we're looking to have it actually completely paid for by this grant.
And this is
Well, a
the,
portion of it.
Oh, actually, yeah.
a portion of it. And location, we're looking at Echo Lake, correct, Mr.
Echo Lake on the Price property, it's Maxim Southern and Locust on that corner in that section there.
Okay. Any additional comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malavey?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes.
All yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go back to the top on consent agenda. We've obviously got 9B, 1, inclusive of the add-ons, which go through 9B 30 and 9C 1 and 2. I'll entertain a motion to approve all at once.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Are there any remarks on all of the resolutions and the C items? Any remarks?
Hold on a second, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask,
The motion
Cynthia,
was by
And seconded by me. Cynthia
Ms.
moved.
Showmaker and Deputy Mayor. Yes, Mr. Walsh, go ahead, sir.
9B3, just clarify that for me?
9B3,
Yes.
go ahead. Mr. Davis, do you want to, this corrects the appointment for the certified tree expert. This
amount was
had
wrong.
it had a wrong amount or
the
something in it?
amount? Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Okay.
We spoke about that.
yeah, it was a correction.
Mr. Malaba, did you come up with what your question was, sir?
No.
That's okay, we'll wait, take your time.
A 95, when would that be ready? How soon would that be ready to put up during our master plan hearing? Is that
Let's
when-
ask, on 9B5, the authorizing the redrafting of the township zoning maps, Mr. Davis, do we have an expected deliverable on when that may be ready?
That's a pertinent question, actually.
Bruce,
If you're going through a
I-
master plan redoing.
I kind
it.
of posed that question to the mayor because it's been a tremendous amount of concern by the public during our master plan meetings that the map is incorrect. The existing map that they have up there is not correct, and it has caused a tremendous amount of concern amongst
Well,
the public.
The map generally is an indicator of the master plan, but tax maps and zoning maps under case law are not determinative.
Correct.
But the action that you are taking in the master plan may or may not affect these properties. But as a matter of law, the properties reverted back to their original zoning.
Right. And you're exactly right. I mean, it was stated like that. It's not the jurisdiction of the planning board to make corrections to the zoning map. It's
That's correct.
that of the governing body. But it was a concern that the existing zoning map that was up for the public to view was incorrect.
Well, I'm not that privy to the master plan, but I mean, is the master plan reviewing those particular
Yes.
acres? Are they
That
going
is
to make
correct.
changes to them? Then whatever it's zoned now, it's pertinent, but it's
Right.
not dispositive because
Right.
basically they went back to the original zoning based on the court's decision that, when I saw the court orders come from the other council dealing with those specific ordinances.
Right, okay, thanks.
But, to answer your question, what I'm saying is that if we're going to be changing the tax maps anyway in conjunction with the master plan, as long as there's an understanding that those zones reverted back to their original zone, was it 2002 or something like that, that's where they're at. But we'll check with the engineers and see how long it's going to take.
All right, Mr. Malaba, did you come up with your question, sir?
I just wanted to know, Mr. Mayor, if anyone knows, so 9B8, exactly which development this is on downtown Greenville Road. There's two developments going on right there. I just wanted to know which one this was.
It said Greenwood Estates.
Does Greenwood Estates help?
Mr. Davis, do you know if this is the one across the street from the Round Town School? Or is this by the sharp turn there by the firehouse? I tried to look it up. I don't know by name. I can't.
I think the one by the firehouse is Foxmore, if I remember right. Foxmore 2 or something.
What's the question? Is that Greenwood Estates?
It is Greenwood Estates, is the
It
name
does
of the
say Greenwood
development.
Estates, but I don't,
Okay, so it's you're right. Deputy Mayor just stated to me that, reminded me that the one by the curb, it's another development, not this one.
okay. Are there any other remarks on the consent agenda items and the motions?
Roll call.
Okay, hearing, you do.
No.
Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move to discussion items. 10-1, we had the benefit, for purposes of expediency, of hearing Mr. Filiatro's rather comprehensive explanation a short while ago. with respect to 10-1. If anyone would like him to give us another version of that, please let us know. And is everyone comfortable with what we're talking about with this topic?
It made sense.
It was something that we talked about when we went into this project.
Okay. Mr. Malava, do you have any questions on this?
I do not.
Deputy Mayor? Mrs. Showmaker? Mr. Walsh? Okay. I think, do you want us to give you some sort of a roll call directive? What is it that you
I
need?
think what we'll ask for, since it is in the rules and regulations, is that the attorney adopt or prepare a resolution
Good.
for the next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Gannon, would you please proceed with the resolution? All right, we're on to petitions and correspondence.
Mayor, can we go back to 8A1?
Oh, 8A1.
There's two public.
Oh, I
hearings.
apologize. I'm moving ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I need someone to let me share along with their computer. Mine's out of commission again.
So we're doing
We haven't done new
ordinance.
business yet, have we? I mean, introduction of
We have not done the introductions yet.
We're doing that right now, right?
We're going to begin, call public's attention to 8A1 and all other articles under unfinished business. 8A1 is 0-062, vacate portion of Bry Avenue, case number SD 2796.
Here.
This ordinance vacates 3 portions of Bry Avenue. I think Peter's got it up. Thanks, Cynthia. All right, ordinance number 0062, introduced and passed on first reading on January 17, 2006, and published according to law, is now being taken about further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of January 20th, 06 is submitted, and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, vacating all the right, title, and interest in and to a portion of Bry Avenue as a result of the realignment design of a portion of said roadway.
Okay, I'm going to open the meeting to the public. Anyone who'd like to be heard for or against or with comments with respect to this particular piece of business, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public portion. Council member.
Motion that ordinance number 06-2 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the February 2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks by the governing body? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, call your attention to 882-0063, rescind ordinance 003 prohibiting parking on a portion of Oakland Road. Ordinance number 0063, introduced and passed on a first reading on January 17th, 06, and published according to law, is now being taken upon further consideration and public hearing. An affidavit of the publication of this ordinance was in the Asbury Park Press issue of January 20th, 2006, and is submitted, and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and the copies were available upon request of the general public. Mr. Davis, would you read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, repealing ordinance number 0-03-3, entitled, An Ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, prohibiting parking upon a portion of dedicated right-of-way adjoining Oakland Road and located immediately in front of Block 35.92, lots 9-7 and 9-8.
Okay, I'm going to open the meeting to the general public for any comments for or against, or comments on with respect to this particular ordinance. Anyone like to be heard, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public portion. Member of the council, please.
Motion that ordinance number 0-06-3 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 2/2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second under remarks. Anyone? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, new business, 9A, introduction of various ordinances. I'm going to turn this over to a member of the council to proceed.
Motion to introduce ordinance 06-5 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the February 2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21, 06 at 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Davis, would you read the ordinance by title.
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, authorizing the vacation of all of the right, title, and interest in and to public land in the township in a conservation easement located upon property known as Block 175, Lot 23.36, as the result of the alignment of said easement area.
Okay. Any remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, 982-0066, member of the council.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-06-6 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 2/2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that be further considered for final passage after public hearing and meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21st, 2006, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, vacating all the right, title, and interest in and to the public to an existing drainage and conservation easement located on property known as Block 175, Lot .402, as a result of the redevelopment of said property.
Okay, any comments? Made a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, 983, member of the council, please proceed.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-06-7 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 2/2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and to be further considered for final passage after public hearing and a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21st, 2006, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
The motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, establishing and implementing a third-party payment plan for emergency medical services.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Under remarks, I just have one brief observation. I want to just
I
be
do too.
absolutely certain that this is only being implemented for those EMS services that are provided by the Howell Township Police Department. This is not being rolled out or implemented by any of the volunteer organizations, and that we're not moving in that direction until there is additional review around the protections of volunteer groups. Is that right, Mr. Davis?
That is the intent, although I do not see any language
That's what concerns me, because it says...
in the ordinance that is specific to the
Yeah.
police department.
I would ask the maker of the motion and the seconder to perhaps request that we modify this so that somewhere in this, Mr. Gannon, you can perhaps suggest where, that it is very clear that this does not apply to the services rendered by volunteers.
We then have to reintroduce it then?
I don't know. Is that a material change, Mr. Gannon, or can that be altered tonight?
Well, it's first, this is first reading, it hasn't been published yet, so.
What concerns me, it could be something simple, that it says Howell Township Emergency Medical Services Program to be administered by the Howell Township Emergency Medical Services Unit or Division, which almost is very broad-based. If it would say maybe...
Within the
Well,
police
it said
department.
If it would say within the
Within the police department.
Yeah, within the police department,
does-
that would probably do
It
it.
would probably do it.
Does that suffice, Mr. Gannon? Can we make that kind of alteration here without having to go back to the beginning?
Because it is the Howell Township Emergency Medical Services Unit, that's what the division is called, and it could say of the Howell Township Police Department, that's all. What do you think, Tom?
Section 1, to be administered by the Howell Township Emergency Medical Service Unit or Division.
What's not this?
A division of the Howell Township
Within
Police
the-
Department?
Within the Township of Howell Police Department. And I do the same thing with 2.
Okay.
The Emergency Medical Unit or Division within the Howell Township Police Department has applied for a provider number,
I
namely...
would amend it, what he's saying.
Did you make the motion?
Since
I think you did.
Let me just go through the whole thing. I didn't draft this
Okay,
one.
take
Bill
your
did.
time.
I was busy doing John Libro's ordinance. But I don't draft every ordinance. I tend to look at them all, but
We
I don't
understand.
have enough. There's only 24 hours in a day, so let me take a second.
Take
I'll
your
look at
time.
it.
You know what, do you want us to come back? Why don't we,
Can I
No,
ask
I
a
think
question on
I think
this?
we're there though.
All right,
While
go ahead.
he looks that up?
Go ahead, Ms. Malave.
Mr. Davis, perhaps you can answer this for me. How did we establish the rate, the fee that we will be charging? How would that come about?
I
Use
believe
the
that was really founded through Mr. Herring's research as to what the standard rates are in the industry.
So we took some municipalities who are doing similar services or providing similar services, and we just used pretty much their rates.
And also what the, the insurance ratings are and what they generally pay under a policy.
I also think, in fairness, it was my recollection that when we looked at this initially, we did get some feedback a while back.
We got a big packet.
We
from
got
a
some
company.
information from a couple of the different
Right.
vendors that came in,
Right.
and they outlined a fee schedule of normal, call them reasonable and customary ambulance service charges.
I know we gave that back up to Mr. Herring, so
Right,
I'm
they have
sure he
the-
gleaned some of this
The
information.
HCFA guidelines, and it looks like it's going to be adjusted in every year.
Okay.
I think that, Jill, if you have that, that down, you can,
All right, so the provisions are sections 1, and I think you said section 2. Was there the only sections, Mr. Gannon?
It's only on this first page. There's nothing other than on the first page.
my computer.
I just saw it in section 1
Section 1.
and 2.
All right, well, if you want to be consistent, New Jersey has issued licensure for the Howell Township Emergency Services Program to be administered by the Howell Township Emergency Services Unit or Division within the Township of Howell Police Department.
Within the Township of Howell Police Department.
That's in Section 1.
That's
at
in
the end of there.
section 1, within Howell Township. I'll read them back, okay.
And
PD.
Section 2.
if you want to make it consistent, you can do that, the Emergency Medical Unit Division within the Howell Township Police Department.
Okay, I would ask the maker of the motion to agree with alterations that read, quote, within the Howell Township Police Department, quote, within Howell Township Police Department, to sections 1 and 2 respectively.
Mayor, I made the motion, and I agree to that.
Okay, the seconder?
No, I agree to amend.
We have agreement. Is that appropriate, Mr. Gannon?
Yes, and I think it's clear on the record that the intent is to only establish a third-party payment plan for the services issued specifically through the Township of Howell Police Department Emergency Medical Unit or Division.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, we have amendments. Are there any additional remarks with respect to this particular item? Mr. Davis, did you read the title? I can't recall. You did. Okay, we've read the title. Any additional remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, 9A4, member of the council, please proceed.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 06-8 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the February 2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 2106 at 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
We have a motion, we need a second.
So moved.
We have a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 188 Land Use to establish a hotel and/or conference center conditional use in the Highway Development 1 and Highway Development 2 zones.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks on this item? Hearing none, roll call. I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, how are we going to adjust this if we don't have the fire equipment to handle a building this size?
Well, I just found out that every one of our fire companies has aerials that go up to 100 feet, so the limitation is 70 feet. So they actually do already have the equipment.
Not only that, as Mr. Gannon and I were discussing before, any building that size is required to be completely sprinkled, which alleviates a lot of potential problems.
When Jay brought up before that they couldn't reach the fountains as constructed with the aerial trucks they had, it was because they were so far away from the buildings that they had to push them over. And at that point, they couldn't reach the building. It wasn't that they couldn't get up high enough.
It was the distance from the roads, not
Right.
necessarily the height, as I recall,
To get
coming
back
to the
in
planning
there,
board
the way they
meetings
had
at
them
that
in
time.
back, the way they were set in there. Yes. Yeah.
But each of the fire companies do have aerials that reach 100 feet already.
This issue with the sprinklers, so that further alleviates concern because...
Well, all of these, and I just happen to have a situation in another town where there's a separate code for these type of buildings. They have to have, in fact, internal high-pressure hose lines, sprinkler systems.
On the building.
Okay.
To, the valves are bigger than this room in some of these things.
Does that
It's like
apply to
overkill.
schools as well? Someone builds a new school, do they also have to be sprinkled down? I'm just not sure.
I believe so, under the new DC, Department of Education rules.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't believe, especially if everybody has 100 foot, I really don't think it's something that should be concerned. I mean, if you want to send it to the fire department for their review, but the other side of the coin is that you may be able to have some type of request for specific fire improvements to the building, but the days of when you could have a developer pay for a fire truck, like they used to do in the old days when they built schools and stuff, that's gone.
Okay. All right, does that satisfy, that's a good question. You comfortable with Mr. Tabasco's answer?
That's a legitimate question, it's a good
Yeah, it's a
question.
good question.
Yeah,
It's a fair point.
I just don't want to hit the taxpayers with a couple $1 million in equipment needed because we approved this.
Right.
Okay.
No, I think we all agree on that.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Mullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, 9A5, member of the council.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 06, I'm sorry,
That's right.
O-06-9 on first reading by title, and to order the same to be published in full in the 2/24/06 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 3/21/06, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration of Government, Article 6, as it applies to fees charged by the Department of Recreation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks?
Mr. Mayor, just
Yes, sir.
For people's clarification, these fees are being raised solely to cover our expenses, the township's expenses. The program, many of these programs, although we've been having lucky to be providing these services or these programs, we've been operating in the red for many, many years. And due to the finances that this township is in right now, I think it's necessary that we bring this fees up to meet our needs. And it's still, just so people know, like the summer recreation program, it's still going to be $125 per child, maximum $500 per family. It's still a bargain when you consider 6 to 8 weeks of summer recreation program for children for $125. So, again, this is not a revenue source, or it's not an intent to, to create revenues, obviously, for the township, but just basically to cover our expenses.
Can I make a comment?
Comments, please.
Under Section 1B, I have no problem with where it says summer team programs, $100 plus $50 late fee if filed after deadline. But where it says for out-of-town residents, I think out-of-town residents, it should be double. It's not doubled. I think it should be double for an out-of-town resident. And I think the late fee for late filing after the deadline should also apply, and it's not written in it. Helene, you say?
Mrs. Schlegel, would you please come up? Perhaps you can answer or entertain Mrs. Showmaker's question.
What's the pleasure of the board on the out-of-town, non-resident?
It's a good point.
Well, I know, before Helene actually sits down, I know, for example, in the ski program that is run through the winter, sometimes there isn't enough people to fill the buses that go up to whatever destination you're going to, so they actually want to have some other people come in, maybe, possibly, I don't know.
They pay for that, don't they?
No, the ski program actually
different.
has at least 4 buses every trip,
They have enough, huh?
so we have enough. I'll just want to address the teen program.
Would you mind, Mrs. Schlegel, just
Sure.
for the record, just your
Helene
name and
Schlegel,
title?
Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
The reason that it mentions that particular teen program is that is only meant to address the special needs teen program, because in the the way that our school district works, some of the children that are in the special needs program don't live in Howell, but they live in Manalapan, or they live in Marlboro, or they live in, Freehold. So there are none of these programs around. Actually, we're very proud of this program. We're winning an award. I'm not supposed to say, but New Jersey Parks and Rec is giving us an award next month.
All right.
But
Congratulations.
It's great.
thank you. I have to wait till it's like official before I'm supposed to let it out, but oh well.
Too late now.
I know. Well, I got a letter. They had to let me know about the dinner.
Nothing
But,
like holding it in at a public meeting, you know.
That's televised to
Yeah, right.
Oh,
52,000 people.
that's
Turn
right.
around for the camera.
Yeah, right. But anyway, the reason that we didn't go so much more is because we want to service those people. No one in the county has a program like we have. So because we're servicing just that population for this
It
program.
covers all your expenses?
Yes,
That fee
it does.
does?
Actually, we just received a $9,550 grant from the Department of Community Affairs for this program.
Wonderful.
So that's going to
As long as it covers
help
your
us out.
fees.
The only thing is, though, that I did notice is that there's no late fee on
On the non-resident?
6A.
No.
Do you see that?
Mhm.
So that's,
Should be a late fee.
I think it was just an admission of $50.
Is that 50 or 25?
$50.
All right, maybe we can,
Really, what we're
put it in.
trying to do is get
Alaska.
people to register so we can make our plans, staffing and things like that.
Also, there is no late fee on the non-resident.
Right, that needs to be addressed also.
So you need to have.
You're correct.
And under Section 1, 6A, it needs to say plus $50 late fee if filed after deadline.
Right.
And under 6B, where it says the fee for non-resident shall be
That's
$150, it needs to say plus $50 late fee if filed after deadline.
That's correct.
And how about under fall and recreation? It doesn't matter? It's first come, first serve under this, for these things?
That would be D.
D, E, and F?
Right, those are just,
Okay.
there would be a late fee on that.
There's no late fee.
These
Okay.
other programs, you need to make plans, you need to staff.
gonna say,
And I will
Right.
tell you, we're trying to make, last year, 60% paid the late fee. 40% paid on time.
But you're scampering. It makes it a very difficult task for you.
It is, especially with staffing.
Right.
It's horrendous.
Lynn, do we I know we advertise this obviously it's on our website and also in the, when we send the schedules out.
Right.
But, do we send a flyer with the,
School.
With the schools?
Yes, we do.
Okay, we do.
Yes, we
So
do.
the deadline's there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And, I mean, obviously, I get every story imaginable, but we give them plenty of time. They normally have at least a month to register. But, you get people, I was out of town.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, you know what,
We'd
the-
rather not collect the late fee and have everybody register ahead of time, obviously, so
Right.
that we can make appropriate planning.
Exactly.
The fee was so little before.
That's why they were paying the late fee.
If they were unsure whether or not they would wait and pay.
Exactly.
It was still minimal
What was
dollars.
the late fee back then? Like a
Well,
$25
actually, I don't
charge?
know if
There
there's a
wasn't
late
one.
fee by ordinance. There isn't one.
Oh, yeah, there was. By Helene's ordinance.
No comment.
Are there any additional comments? Do we need to make any alterations
So do we have
based
to
on these
amend this,
recommendations? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Do we need to make amendments?
Mr. Gannon took note of the changes before it gets published.
You
He'll
just
send us.
introduce it with the amendments for the late fee, and we'll
All right, what
have it
provision was
published with
that? That was
That was one who
Six.
was the
6A and B.
6A and B. All right, Mr. Malave, do you
Yeah,
agree
the
to make the
$50 late
alterations to 6A and B with respect to late fees as was requested?
Mr. Mayor, I do agree to amend my motion to include 6A and B, so it includes a late fee of $50. That's it.
and
Will
the
the seconder?
seconder will agree to amend as well.
Okay, so the motioner and the seconder agree. Are there any additional comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, next up is 9A6, member of the council.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 06-10 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the February 2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 2106 at 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, establishing fees for the usage of township recreational fields and facilities by organizations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks? This is establishing field use charges. Recommendations from department.
Let me just have Aline give a 30-second.
Ms. Schlegel, would you give an overview, please?
Is it sufficient to cover grass cuttings?
Sure. What we're doing now, unfortunately, we have an overwhelming request for fields from organizations. And we have some profit-making organizations that are using our fields. And really what this equates to is that we're giving a business the plant and operations that the township residents are paying for. So what this will do is it will charge the profit-making organization, and that money will pay for maintenance of the fields. Because right now, the township citizens at large are paying for maintenance for a business to use our property. Now, for the nonprofits, obviously the nonprofits are paying in kind. They're volunteering, they're coaching and whatever. But when it comes to the profit-making organization, we don't want to give a storefront to the business.
That's a good way of putting it. It's like the metal end.
That's right. You have any questions?
I always ask this question. How much downtime are these fields? Are the fields ever open for any public consumption? I mean, can at any given time, is there any time where someone can just walk on and play on a field? Because I know that there's been instances where people cannot, they're thrown off the fields by organizations who literally throw taxpayers off.
With the advent of Bonham, we will ultimately soon free up Oak Glen, and that will be a community park again, for the most part. So there you can have a barbecue again or a picnic again once we get Bonham operational. Oak Glen becomes available.
Because you're correct. On the weekend, when most citizens would be in the park, I'm going to tell you,
it's not. I mean, I go to we've always gone to Turkey Swan Park, or always. You can never get over here.
And we're 7 nights a week.
Well, I will tell you, the hidden secret park in Howell Township is Pride Park.
That's correct.
Yes.
And Pride Park is my kids' favorite place to go.
That's correct. You're correct.
It is a wonderful place, just outstanding equipment. To your credit, it is always perfectly maintained, clean, just outstanding. And we take the kids there, and they have the run of the place. There's no one ever there.
We need to do that next. Remember the next section we talked about?
It's in Country Meadows.
I thought about that
We
when
need
I
to do
left.
that
I
next
was sorry I
section.
didn't say
I mean,
that.
it is such a great place.
That was
Room to
fun.
fly a kite. Room to fly a kite.
You can fly a kite, you can throw a football,
That's
you
nice.
can, you have tremendous amount of space there. There's adequate parking
Right.
on that whole
Right.
one side of the road. That's a hidden treasure.
That was a grand.
That was a
Yes, it
great
was.
job
Yes, it
on
was.
putting that together. All right, any other questions for Ms. Schlegel?
You know, one thing I would like to ask about this. What do we do when you have people taking these fields as nonprofits, but then using it for their business entities? And we know that happens.
Well, that's what we don't do anything, right? Oh, you mean the nonprofit? Okay, actually, that's why it says, if you read, it will say, let's see, when they operate, the fees shall also apply to nonprofits when they operate beyond their normal programs, which is really, it should be like outside their normal operations. So, for example, if one of the nonprofits is running a camp where they're charging fees, like at Oakland Park, all right, that's out of normal operations or out of normal programs. They use the word programs. I don't know, maybe it's a lawyer thing, but whatever. But they're going to have to pay just like the profit making. If there's fees incurred, so the tournaments, okay, because we all know how much money that are made at the tournaments off of the public property.
Sure.
You're bringing in outside teams are coming in, 300 teams are coming in. At that point, that's another time when they would have to pay. Outside normal operations.
So if there's a 30-team tournament,
Right.
you're going to charge them per hour
Or per game,
or per game?
right.
And the entry fees for the teams coming will cover that.
Oh, no, I know a lot of other towns are doing it,
Right.
and they're just raising the fee to join the
Right.
tournament, and we know we weren't here.
Because what's happening is my budget's going up, needing more infield mix, needing more equipment, grass seed, just the labor, okay? So this money will directly go to maintenance of the facility.
Weren't we using a borrowed machine for something?
All right, anything else from Mrs. Schlegel?
Donation.
I think, Bob, I think you're right that unfortunately what's going to happen here is that these people who are making the profit off of this clinics, they're going to just raise their fees to us, the taxpayer. We may, we already paying to maintain these fields and so forth, and we may have additional fees to pay additional fees to these clinics now, because look, whoever's running this leagues, they're not going to absorb this cost. They're going to pass it on to whoever registers their kids to play. Unfortunately, and that's what's going to happen. But again, I agree with Elaine's recommendation here, 100%. We have to do it.
Okay.
There's no choice.
All right, any other remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Melloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Basco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, let's move on to the next item. This is 9A7. Member of the council.
Anybody bring it up? I didn't bring it up yet.
You have it up, Cynthia?
It's coming.
Computer's broke.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-06-11 on first reading by title and order the same to be published in full in the 2/2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21st, 2006, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Davis, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 35 entitled Sewerage Authorities to amend Subchapter 35-4 entitled Membership Salary to provide for residency requirement.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks?
I would like to ask one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Walsh.
Does it hold weight? I mean, can we make them abide by this or no?
Mr. Gannon.
Certainly.
Okay.
I mean, the sewage authority law does not have a specific residency requirement.
That's right.
And then there was a case law that came out of Neptune Authority where the court said that absent a ordinance, they couldn't enforce the residency. So the state court basically said, based on a whole lot of public policies and previous decisions, they said that even though the statute did not provide for a residency requirement, it makes sense, et cetera, but only if the governing body of the municipality that appoints the person makes it mandatory in an ordinance. And so that's the basis for it, because whatever reason, and the sewage authority law is not like the MUA law, that was 1948. They kind of missed it, because it makes sense. If you're representing a town, you should probably live in the town. But so they said. So the court said, Appellate Division said that if you want to have that as part of your authority and part of your responsibility to be an authority member, you have to do it by ordinance. And this ordinance says that they should be residents of the township and maintain their residency during the term, and that they have to certify by February 1st that they're residents. So I put a self-executing clause in here too, so we don't have to go chasing people.
Every year. Okay.
So it's a simple thing. The clerk is going to say, look, here's a little thing, just certify, this is your name and address, stamp it, and everybody's hunky-dory.
Thank you.
Stick it to us. Any other comments on this item? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, let's go to,
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-06-12 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in 22406 issue of the Asbury Park Press together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title and to be further considered for final passage after public hearing at the meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21st, 2006, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Mr. Davis, please read the title.
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, adopting an updated application checklist applying to any and all applications for minor subdivision, major subdivision, minor site plan, major site plan, general development plan, conditional use applications, or variance applications.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any remarks?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
In reference to Mrs. Showmaker's comments before, Mr. Cachero has indicated that the planning board has requested the professionals to draft a new modern checklist, and there is an attachment
there?
from Remington and Vernick, and that they too were involved in this, as well as Mr. Newcomb being copied on both pieces of correspondence, so I have to believe that all professionals were involved.
Okay, good. Any comments from members of the governing body under remarks? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, okay, 9A9.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 06-13 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the February 2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that will be further considered for final passage after public hearing and a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 2106 at 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second, Mayor.
Motion and a second. Mr. Davis, please read the title.
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, providing a procedure for Howell Township volunteer fire departments and first aid squads desiring to hold coin-toss fundraising along roadways within the township.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks?
Yeah, actually, I have one. I remember last year, after the incident down in the Gulf States, the Katrina relief effort, there was some major soliciting going on Highway 9.
That's right.
And I thought it was a very good deed, but I also thought at the time that it was very unsafe. So in a way, I'm very happy that this is being introduced, and we'll have a hearing on it next month.
Okay, any additional comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, 9A10, stormwater management.
Mr. Gannon.
We gonna,
I would request that we hold that until,
Okay.
we can introduce that probably in March, but it's about 20 pages, and Bill Herring and I are kicking a few things around. But we'll get that for introduction at the workshop. That might be the best way to go.
Okay, so now we're on to
And I didn't have a
9/11.
discussion with our engineer. I wanted to, but I think he got ill or something.
9/11 capital ordinance.
Yeah. Oh, do we need to motion to table that one?
Yeah, that's appropriate.
All right, so somebody make that motion to table 9A10.
Deputy Mayor, I make a motion to table ordinance number O-06-14.
So we have a motion, need a
Second.
second? Okay. Any remarks? Hearing none, roll call vote. To table 9A10.
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
He's absent the chamber at the moment. Okay, now you have to move on to 9A11, capital ordinance.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-06-15 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 2/2406 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on March 21st, 2006, 8 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Davis, can you please read the title?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell appropriating $17,000 from capital fund balance within the general capital fund and authorizing $17,000 for capital improvements in and by the Township of Howell in the county of Monmouth, New Jersey.
Okay, do we have any remarks? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, please. Jill?
Mr. Malave?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Tabasco?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
He is still absent the chamber. All right, now we're up to petitions and correspondence, which is on the last page. We're on number 11.1. Proposed township procedure recheck foundation prior to permitting the erection of framework. Who has comments on this one from our professional sitting over on the side there?
I read that quickly, and it appears that there was a zoning board memo. That's probably something that could be used, that could be looked at in terms of another check during the construction phase, where I think we have one that the engineers or their engineers or our engineers go out and check the first floor elevation. This one is to check the setbacks at the time the
Is this something that needs to be put in ordinance?
yeah, well, it would have to be, because you're in an additional inspection from the engineering department, which apparently and it happens. I represent a Board of Adjustment where the new houses, and they're half a foot off because they didn't, file the survey, or, they say it was the error or something. But, so this would hopefully preclude that by having an additional foundation check. But you might want to have our engineers review it, look at what it would cost, the time frame, et cetera, and is it worth, I don't know how many of these problems that we've been having with the zoning board, where what happens is the builder has to come back in after he gets a major development and says, oh, we made a mistake, and, we're half a foot. And 9 times out of 10, the Board of Adjustment, because it's the person that bought it, they're hanging out, can't get a CO, they're going to grant it. So the question is, do you put in another stop in there where our people would have to go out, or maybe we can make their engineers certify that it's in accordance with the surveys and the setbacks, and that would be done, I guess, at the foundation level. So if it's an error, or it's out of the it intrudes into a setback, then it would have to be moved.
Question. Where is this at?
Excuse me?
Does anyone know where this is at? It says Toll Land. Is this one of the Toll Brothers developments? 7 Farmside Drive.
I guess that's in the new, well, actually, I shouldn't guess. But if I had to guess, it's either going to be a Manasquan River, the one over by the high school, or it's going to be by the one over by where the villages are.
It says 7 Farmside Drive.
Yeah, I don't know where that's at, though.
Those are the two current toll projects under.
It says Toll Land.
Hmm.
I find it hard to believe that this is just, you know what, I don't know that we're setting it the right tone on doing what we're doing here.
You need to double check?
No. Why they built the foundation in the wrong spot. So instead of making him take the foundation down and put it in the right spot, we give him a bulk variance and let him continue, and then we're going to go back and check the framework of the house because he's now going to not have the proper setbacks? Unless I'm reading this wrong, and I'm completely misunderstanding it.
The Board of Adjustment gave him a variance, but apparently the framework was also built in addition to just the foundation. So they're saying at that point, there's a hardship, and there's probably a purchaser who wants to get into their house, et cetera, et cetera. So they're saying, in order to avoid this, that a procedure be implemented, a inspection for the foundation to be checked, like we do with the finished floor plan, finished floor elevation, in order to avoid having this situation.
So just so that I just want to bring it to all the council.
It's done in other municipalities.
Yeah.
Less than 50% probably do that.
Yeah, but that's not, my point is not about the reinspection. My point is, I think my concern and question is the foundation was put in the wrong spot, correct?
That's correct.
And then the framework was put on it
That's correct.
without being any inspections. My point is that Mrs. Dixell, who comes in here and tells us that a foundation could be offline, and everybody looks at her like she has 10 heads and she has no clue what she's talking about, she could possibly be talking about an issue that we're reading here, unless I'm totally misunderstanding this, and that's why I want to make sure, Mr. Gannon, that I'm not misunderstanding this. The foundation was put on the wrong spot, and not per the correct survey. Then the framework went up on top of the so now it's a
That's right.
non-conforming lot, it's a problem, and instead of having the foundation taken down and redone and done properly, they just came before the zoning board. The zoning board gave them a bulk variance and allowed them to continue building it incorrectly. Am I correct?
Yes, we don't have all the details.
Right,
Sometimes
but
it's
that's the
half
way the letter states.
sometimes it's half a foot.
Right.
You know, I mean, if
So-
it's like 10 feet, then it's a different story, but my experience is generally de minimis. But, no, that, without putting any factual overlay on it, you're correct.
And don't misunderstand me, I don't have a problem with this, but I just think that if we do things like this, we have to do it across the board, or we don't do it at all. But to do it, and I know we say case-based, but if this was a homeowner doing this, a single home somewhere, this isn't a development where it was clearly, I don't know.
Well, when you read this, I don't know if the zoning board knew that survey was not right when they granted the approval, though. That might have been discovered after the fact.
I mean, you can ask for the application, I can look at, and I can tell you. I mean, this memorandum is, it doesn't tell you a lot of specifics, because I guess the point is that the board believes that maybe we should have an additional check inspection by the township with regard to the foundation being within the setbacks.
So
I know personally, from just putting an addition on my house and the process of it, they came out and checked my foundation when the foundation was put out there. So they're not doing this on new construction,
Doesn't sound like it.
but they're doing it to the homeowners and charging the residents of Howell inspection fees. I mean, what do we?
Hold it. Before we
Yeah, let's not-
jump off all that cliff together like
Okay.
a bunch of lemmings, let's just make sure that we have the facts straight.
Dodo
Before we start saying our building department isn't doing their job.
We agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, because I know they came out to my house, because I was there when the gentleman came to my home to measure the foundation when it was all put in the addition of my house. I didn't tell him who I was. He knew because he had seen a sign about me. But
Well, you're right, because when you're dealing with major developers, they come out with a complete survey crew and et cetera, and everybody assumes it's right, as opposed to...
But by reading this, you don't necessarily know that they didn't come out and inspect the foundation
Yeah,
either.
we
It
don't
just
know.
says that they discovered that it was put in an improper location at some point. So when was that discovery made? It could've
I would
been-
assume after the framing was up.
Well, I think the purpose of this.
But that doesn't mean that they didn't come out and check the foundation to make sure the foundation was actually laid right.
Right.
That's two different things.
Well,
One's
correct.
technical and one
The
is...
zoning board assumes that that's not part of our...
I was just
I'll
answering
check
Bobby's
with-
question. They may have actually come and inspected the foundation, say, hey, foundation's fine. But
Well, they
then
want-
somebody else later discovered that it was actually not in the right spot.
Maybe they want this for the very reason that Mrs. Showmaker was talking about. They
Right.
want the reinspection before the framing starts. So if there is an issue, a major issue, at that point, maybe they could have them tear it out, as opposed to tearing down an entire house.
Right, so I understand exactly what you're saying, Bruce, but I'm saying they may have actually done that, and we don't know by reading this that they didn't actually do that inspection of the
No, they
foundation.
did the inspection from a construction standpoint. They
Right.
didn't shoot any lines to see if it was within the surveyor's the
Right.
building envelope. So that would be an
Tom's
additional...
following me.
That would be an additional inspection.
So what action do you need us to take, give you direction? What is it that we need to be doing?
Well, the zoning board is saying that they suggest this. We should send it to the planning board, send it to our engineers to review. If it's an ongoing problem, then they would have to add the requisite ordinance to provide for a fee for an additional inspection.
What's your sense, Mr. Gannon? What's your advice?
My advice would be that I've seen that done, well, it started out years ago, a lot of towns doing the final floor elevation because some of the houses were a little higher than anticipated. So that was one issue. I don't know how many issues they have with regard to this. It's probably something that's not a bad idea. Question is staffing, being able to get out there, do it. It's an additional inspection cost. So it sounds like a good idea, but let's look at it. Let's see if it's really, if we're getting a cannon to shoot a mouse, if there's like one of these a year, or it's It happens, and, the Toll Brothers, I don't know if this is Toll Brothers, but if they get sloppy, that's when they do it on the new ones, So it's probably something that this memo should be circulated among the planning board, among our township engineers, and get back to the zoning and ask how many of these are you dealing with, and if
All
you're
right.
dealing with them, then it's probably worthwhile addressing.
So Mr. Gannon's recommendation, I think, is a good one, subject to the council's agreement. Let's circulate this to the appropriate internal departments and boards, ask for their opinion, get their comments, ask the zoning board how many they're dealing with. Can we put a memo out, Mr. Davis, that requests all comments be circled back to the manager's office within 30 days? Okay, and you'll get back to us.
Great,
Good.
Mayor.
11-2, Strickland Road, what's next? We have correspondence here requesting sidewalks on Strickland Road.
Yeah, the individual who wrote the letter actually lives in Freehold. But she says her problem is in Howell because we have no sidewalks on our
She's from
portion of
Strickland
Strickland
Farm.
Road.
Okay.
So she's walking from either
Strickland Farm,
Deerbrook or
Deerbrook.
from Strickland Farm, yeah. and-
Deerbrook Development.
So this would become the township's
It's Highway 9
responsibility
for
to
the
have to
bus,
go in.
yes.
It is Highway 9 for the bus.
Yeah.
What has been the historic position of the municipality when we've gotten requests like this, Mr. Davis?
There's no sidewalks there.
Okay.
It's a main
All right,
thoroughfare.
well, first, I don't know what the pleasure of the council is. We, obviously, if we put a sidewalk here, there's about 500 other developments that don't have sidewalks that would like them. So,
You're open,
this is a
that's
slippery slope. If it's all right with the council, I might suggest we ask Mr. Davis to send a nice thank you letter for your
Well,
correspondence.
hold that
I'm
thought for
sorry,
one
go
second,
ahead.
because I do know on the Moore's Landing side, there is a sidewalk.
Yes.
So there may be only a short distance that we're talking about to get over that bridge that separates Freehold and Howell. So
The
I'm-
bridge is very narrow,
uh,
very narrow, very,
So,
very
You couldn't
budget.
possibly put a sidewalk on the inside. You'd have to develop a decking or some kind on the outside of the bridge.
So what I'm getting at, I don't know if we're talking about a major length of sidewalk. I'd have to go look, but the devil's advocate side of that is you're right. If we did there, we'd have to do it everywhere.
All right, so can we, pleasure of the council, if you agree, send a nice thank you letter to this individual that the township does not have the financial resources to install sidewalks, and this is not something that we can accommodate, and we appreciate their inquiry, but it's outside of our capability to assess. Is that fair enough? Everybody agree?
At this
Fair
time,
enough.
Okay. Mr. Davis, you'll see to that, please. All right, 11-3, Future and Transportation Workshop, correspondence from Mr. Newcomb dated 12-9.
I requested Mr. Newcomb to attend this workshop, but I truthfully would like to have him
He should do a
here. This is
presentation.
All
kind
right.
of a give you a first blush. I'd like
Yes.
to have him here to run through it with
All
you.
right, can you ask him to potentially maybe check with Mr. Tripodi and Ms. Woolman, who's on for the March middle meeting? Perhaps if calendar permits, we can have him come during that presentation night, and he can present. Is there anything else we haven't covered, Mr. Davis? Okay, a couple things. We have a reason to determine when our next budget meeting is going to be, and I don't know if there's been any progress around picking a new date
Thought we
or
did.
new...
No, February
Yeah, we
28th
did them, they're done.
and March 6th.
Okay,
But I
then I
believe
apologize.
The
I must
deputy
have missed
mayor,
it.
I don't think, is available on the 28th.
That was, yeah, I
On
didn't
the,
know if we had finalized them, knowing Pete
Definitely not
wasn't-
available on the 6th, I know that.
You're not available on the 6th.
Okay.
Were you okay on the 28th?
There is one conflict, but I'll try to make it.
All right, so the dates are, again, please,
February 28th.
2/28, at what time?
6 p.m.
6
At
o'clock.
6 PM, and March
March 6th.
6th.
And bring your own dinner, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Bring
I
your own
only-
dinner.
Well, I
I'm not
always do.
cooking.
Mr. Mayor,
I
if
never
you could,
touch the food.
Arroz con pollo.
When you bring your own dinner, could you, like, bring extra?
I'd be
You're
happy
asking
to.
Lisa to cook, I don't know.
March 6th.
I would be happy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so those are the dates, 6 o'clock start time. The other item, quickly, is, Mr. Davis, there were a couple items we didn't get to tonight on the executive session agenda. I'm sure you probably already caught this. There were two in particular we didn't get to. We just need to make certain we remember to carry them to the next. You know which two I'm talking about? Okay.
There actually were 3, I think.
Maybe they were, yeah, Deputy Mayor points out that there could have even been 3. This is a reminder that we have the volunteer brunch, so to speak, on the 24th. In all candor, there is a possibility that I may be late. I can't speak on behalf of the Deputy Mayor or Mr. Malave, but my sense is they may be late with me. So as a result of that, in the event that we are running slightly late, I would request that Mrs. Showmaker, being the ranking member of the council, proceed in overseeing the event, in the event that we are late, and that Mr. Walsh join her in doing so. I think both of you were planning to be there. Is that right?
What time does it start again?
It starts at 12.
I better get an agenda, because I have no
Yeah,
idea. I have
I've
no
got it all laid
agenda.
out for you.
I'll have to, I'll have to leave,
email
even
it
after
to me.
leaving the other thing you're talking about. I'll still
Yeah.
have to leave this volunteer thing about 1:15. I got
Okay.
a basketball game.
Email it to me.
I will, yeah, we'll go over that, but just, and there's a slight possibility I may be late. I don't know for sure, but I know that, you're going to be there, Mr. Walsh, for 12?
I can't answer that right at the moment, if this is going to be aired before Saturday.
What's that? I lost you.
I can't answer that at the moment, if this is going to be on TV.
He doesn't want to
before
commit on TV.
Oh,
but-
Jesus, okay. Mrs. Showmaker, you, okay.
What was that?
Surprise party for my wife.
Oh,
Well, geez, there you go, there goes that. You'll be there, okay. That is only,
Rewind the tape.
Okay. All right. The last really brief item, I'm just going to mention this to everybody. I've been grappling with how can we further tighten up how we run our meetings. And quite frankly, I think we do a fairly good
Tonight we did pretty
job. I mean, we got a late start out of executive. I've been, well, but,
Get the town's business out of the way.
but what I've come up with, I've been
We do that at
re-looking.
the workshop meeting.
I've been re-looking at Robert's Rules of Order, and there's actually a recommendation in there in the parliamentary procedure that suggests, and I'm just going to ask everybody to take this home and sleep on it, that during debate on any particular item, that each individual member of the body be limited to 2 opportunities on that particular topic. So that when we're going through the debate, for example, the chair would keep score, so to speak, of, we're talking about conditions on Route 9 and how we would do the sewer hookup. And Mr. Malave goes first, and he makes a comment, and then Mr. Walsh makes a comment, and then Mr. Malave wants to be recognized again. In the absence of some overwhelming reason, he's spoken twice. So no member of the body would speak more than twice on an issue. Now, I do not want to impose that as chair.
I think we're actually pretty good on that already.
But I think we are pretty good, but I just wanted to share it with you to get your feedback, because I'm really trying to do everything I can from a business perspective to keep us on point and to move along. So just, everybody think about it and let me know how you feel about it. We don't want to stymie the discussion, but if it can help us, I'm willing to try it so that we can further, move our businesses.
And while you're digesting that, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that perhaps not to be short to the residents.
Oh, gee, I know what you're going to say.
Well, but perhaps you could refrain a little bit from engaging on with the residents as much, so that we can further move along. the process.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for your comments next week.
Yeah, thank you for your comments next meeting. We'll take it under advisement, right?
I'd like to ask for a different scorekeeper.
All right, is there any other business, Mr. Davis?
No, sir.
Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mayor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a safe ride home, everybody.